All right. I see you got somebody that's waiting for me, so I won't make you wait any longer. And the debates don't start till 9, but yeah, let me make sure. All messages. There we go. But I got some things I thought I'd show you guys that are going on right now as we speak. So hold on one second. You better be quiet, cat. You better be quiet, kitty. All right, here we go. Watch this. This just went down. This is a guy who was part of SEAL Team 6. He made an announcement, and I think everyone should hear it.
Zelensky is talking to the media right now. Armed forces. Since leaving the Navy, I've been involved in various successful businesses, both in this country and abroad. I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden, in dealings with the Chinese. I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. I have also heard that Vice President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know.
Hi, sweetheart.
And everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves. I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that spanned the years 2015 through 2018. These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man. The Bidens included. I have no wish to bury anyone. I've never been political. The few contributions I have made have been to Democrats. But what I am is a patriot and a veteran. To protect my family name and my business reputation, I need to ensure that the true facts are out there. In late 2015, I was approached by James Gilliar, whom I had known for many years, about joining him in a deal which he said would involve the Chinese state-owned enterprise, CEFC China,
Listen
Energy,
close,
and what he called one of the most prominent families in the United States. I was informed first by Gilliar, and then by Hunter Biden, and by Rob Walker, who was working with the Bidens, that the Bidens wanted to form a new entity with CFC, which was to invest in infrastructure.
he's not against Biden. He just
technology.
He used to work with
in the
Biden,
US and around the world.
and he's providing
And the
information
entity would initially be capitalized with $10 million
that
and
corroborates
then grow to billions of dollars of
with
investment
Giuliani's
capital.
leak.
After months of discussion, I agreed at Gilliar and Hunter Biden's request to become CEO of the entity to be called Sinohawk. Sino representing the Chinese side, Hawk representing Hunter Biden's brother Bo's favorite animal.
Bingo.
And between February and May 2017, we exchanged numerous emails, documents, and WhatsApp messages concerning Sinohawk and its potential business. On May 2nd, 2017, the night before Joe Biden was to appear at the Milken Conference, I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level. After that meeting, I had numerous communications with Hunter, Walker, Gilliar, and Jim Biden regarding the allocation of the equity ownership of Sinohawk. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman. On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face to face.
There we go.
In fact, I was advised by Gilliard and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret. I also had a disagreement with Hunter about the funds CFC was contributing to Sinohawk. Hunter wanted $5 million of those funds to go to himself and his family, so he wanted the funds wired directly to an entity affiliated with him. I objected because I was contrary to our written agreements concerning Sinohawk. He said, referring to the chairman, his father, that CSC was really investing in the Biden family, that he held the Trump card, and that he was the one putting his family legacy on the line. He also said to me on May 17th, 2017, that CSC wanted to be my partner, to be partner with the Bidens. During these negotiations, I repeated to Hunter and others that Sinohawk could not be Hunter's personal piggy bank. And I demanded that proper corporate governance procedures be implemented for capital distributions. Hunter became very upset with me. CSC through July 2017 was assuring me the funds would be transferred to Sinohawk, but they were never sent to our company. Instead, I found out from Senator Johnson's September report that the $5 million was sent in August 2017 to entities affiliated with Hunter.
Nice.
Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the Senate committee members concerning this matter, and I will be providing to the FBI the devices which contain the evidence corroborating what I have said. So I will not be taking any questions at this time.
You want to go out the window?
I will not be taking questions at this time. The evidence sits on these 3 phones. I don't want to go into anything any further. This will all be discussed with Senator Johnson and his committee, and the American people can decide what's fact.
All right, that is Tony Boblinski, a retired lieutenant in the U.S. Navy and the CEO of Sinohawk Holdings, just talking to the media moments ago. Wrapping that up, he is going to be talking to Senate members tomorrow as an investigation does continue into Hunter Biden and his international.
Okay, so see, the investigation continues. Is that this? So what you're not hearing on local news stations, now you just heard. That was an ex. Hang on, let's see if I can flip this. All right, that was Tony Boblinski. There we go. Tony Boblinski, who's an ex business associate of Hunter Biden, came out an hour before the debate to say, I got dirt. I was part of the dirt. I was part of the Chinese thing. Me too. No, Nikki, I haven't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I took a nap. Sorry. I took a nap to get ready for this thing. I missed my 3 o'clock. So I will though. Oh, finest, thank you. I'm not feeling the greatest, so that's why I got the hat on, cover up the hair. But I'm just overtired, I think. Let's see where we're gonna watch this that we're not gonna get shut down. So anyway, the guy said he's got information that he's gonna be turning in to the FBI, those 3 phones. Now, mind you, if you haven't heard, another business associate of Hunter Biden, who's in federal prison right now being sentenced for that Ukraine deal that you keep hearing about, he's just gave a very major journalist by the name of, oh shit, what is his name? He did the book on Joe Biden. It's called something Empire's Evil Empire. Anyway, he gave the journalist his Gmail account and the password, and he gave him complete written access to his Gmail. And it's all his emails back and forth between Hunter, Joe, the whole Biden crew about the illegal money laundering being done from Ukraine. We were giving them aid money to help rebuild, and then a percentage of that aid money was then funneled back through Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma, and Burisma used it to pay off Joe, his brother James, Hunter, and according to some of Hunter's emails, the entire family is literally living off of Hunter's illegal money schemes. So, without further ado, let's see what we can find for debates, and we'll go from there. I'll try not to run my yapper too much, but I mean, oops. Come on, why does it always skip the news like it don't want me to go to it? Damn. Let's hear this. We got a couple minutes till the debates start. So let's hear a couple. There is some news channels reporting on what we just talked about. Sorry about the ads. Come on.
It's very good to have you with us tonight. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you, Martha and Brett.
So I'd like to ask you first of all, because we just got this news conference from Tony Bobulinski, a former naval lieutenant, and from your perspective,
Naval
one of the
lieutenant he
questions
was,
is,
you
does
guys.
this put the Biden family potentially in a difficult position if he were to become president with regard to relations with China?
Well, I think, I don't know all the facts and all the allegations that are taking place. They seem to be bubbling up pretty fast and furiously regarding Hunter Biden and the former vice president, while the former vice president was in office. But what it is consistent is this sort of behavior and what the Chinese have done for many, many years with American politicians and elites is offering them financial incentives, offering them business incentives, trying to influence mayors or congressmen or elected officials by providing Chinese businesses to their districts and using that to gain influence over the United States. This is a long pattern of Chinese activity, and from what these allegations are, it sounds consistent. I assume the news media will, or at least I hope they'll investigate and get to the bottom of it. I also understand there's an FBI investigation. I understand this from just the open source press, that there's an FBI money laundering investigation into these allegations, and so I think we'll get to the bottom of it. But it's entirely consistent with how China has used its influence, whether money or blackmail or fawning press or that sort of thing, to influence American politicians, and it's something we've got to be very concerned about.
And we'll continue to follow it here. I want to ask you about the interference in the election, and we had the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI Director, talk about Russia and Iran. Are there other countries as well doing that? Which one is posing the biggest problem tonight?
There are. I think, look, the Iranians are the most recent to have engaged in this activity that was exposed by Director Wray and Director Radcliffe, and I commend them and their teams and our intelligence services for uncovering it quickly, and then for the administration coming forward and being transparent, because we think transparency is the best deterrent to this sort of activity in the future. And so the Iranians
Sorry
understand
guys,
that
I had to step away for a
very
second.
unhappy with
YouTube's
this, and there will be
support free speech.
consequences for Iran as a result of it.
I'll have to check that out.
It's also Russia.
I'm on
China
Rumble now.
Attorney
I haven't
General
put up any
Barr said
videos
recently,
yet. I'm on Rumble, I'm on
China sit
BitChute,
down
I'm
and
on
influence American politicians, the American political system, and our
Parler,
elections is an order of
all those
magnitude
ones.
higher than what the Russians or the Iranians have done.
I got a
And
D
I
Live
also
channel.
can't
I got
name
a,
the
I mean,
countries, but there are two or
I
three
got
other
them all.
countries that we're keeping very close tabs
My
on,
BitChute's got the
and we're
most
concerned about
subscribers,
their
other,
efforts
but
to try
but
and
I
influence,
haven't. It's my fault. I haven't
elections.
synced a lot of
What
my
I do wanna
videos to
make
the other
is
ones.
that,
I need help with that.
Our elections, if you cast a vote, your vote's going to get counted. We've hardened our election infrastructure. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars doing so. We're working with secretaries of state and lieutenant governors.
Well,
to handle the
Finest,
elections
if you would
statewide,
hurry up and start
across all
taking
50
care of all
states. I
that.
was just in Iowa, met with the Iowa National Guard and their cyber unit has stood up. And these men and women are working with the Iowa Secretary of State, for example, to make sure that the elections are free and fair and can't be compromised by adversaries. So we're confident in what we can do to protect the American people and protect our elections. But it's concerning when we see foreign actors trying to get involved, either influence Americans or to interfere with the actual election day activities of our citizens.
Yep, same name. All right,
Before we
honey,
let you go,
I'll look for it.
National security is one of the bucket of questions this
Alright,
evening.
let's see.
What is the question that you think is most important to address with regard to our nation's national security at this point?
Well, I think the president should just be asked to address the accomplishments. He's done more in the past 3.5 years than most presidents have done in 2 terms. I mean, we've had
Amen. I got a whole list. I got a video I'm doing tomorrow on
We just brought the
the
Beatles home.
all
We're
of
gonna
the
prosecute them for the death of
accomplishments
Neil
of the
Mueller
Trump
and the other American
administration. So keep
lawful
your eye
agents.
out. Someone
We
asked me to
brought
do it,
peace
so
to the
I'm
Middle East
specifically
with the
doing it because I was
Abraham
asked to,
Accords,
just so you know.
bringing Bahrain and UAE into
All right.
diplomatic relations and really
Let's see what else we got here.
Is in response to that first debate where we saw that series of
Try to keep it even
interruptions.
handed.
Do you think, Lonnie, this debate will be vastly different compared to what we saw earlier?
I don't know that it'll be vastly different, Elaine. I think both candidates are still going to try and.
Yo, hang on. I gotta just say one thing. Who is so waiting for Donald Trump, right? For them to mute his microphone, because that's what they got the ability to mute his microphone, right? So who is so waiting for him to walk right over to the middle where he can be heard by Joe Biden's microphone and be like, so what's up with your son's child pornography on this laptop? What's going down with that? Who's what? I am. Because I'm telling you that we're not going to get through this debate without Donald Trump bringing that up. Because you and I know that they've cut it out of the news, made up some bullshit about Rudy Giuliani touching himself during a Borat filming. What the hell does a movie film? Because Giuliani did a cameo in the new Borat film, right? So to take away from the child pornography that's been found on Hunter Biden's computer, not one, two computers, they decided to all get together and come out with one big story about Giuliani touching himself during the filming of a scene for Borat. When in reality, what he was doing was pulling his mic out and tucking his shirt in, but let's just leave it there. It doesn't matter. It's a film, a movie, a scene from a movie. What does that have to do from real child pornography found on Hunter Biden's laptop? So I am desperately waiting for Donald Trump to call that out. And for anybody that's on here who thinks for 1 second that Kate420 is some type of redneck, Trump loving, whatever, let me show you something. These were from 2016 when I protested in Philadelphia for Bernie Sanders. Okay? In all of my years, I voted Democrat. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I was down there when they put when they were carrying the coffin down the street saying the DNC has died, democracy has died. I was there when they took over the outside of the Democratic National Committee building while they were inside doing the nominations. I was there. I was also there when Bernie Sanders sold out and told me to vote for Hillary Clinton after 9 months of telling me Hillary Clinton was so corrupt she wasn't fit to be president. So don't tell me I'm some white trash redneck that this right here describes my entire life. Because I'm going to tell you a little piece of wisdom that I learned from somebody much older than me. In your 20s, if you're not a liberal, you have no heart. And in your 30s, if you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. Okay? So I respect you in your 20s and what you're going through and that whole need to find equality and in your fight for your freedoms and all that good stuff, right? Because believe me, it will build a foundation for the future. But your experiences from your 20s to your 30s, paying the bills, looking at that paycheck every week, watching them taxes go, and then watching the TV and watching them spend $25 million on a false investigation into the president that they knew from day one was false, that they did just to smear him and try to get him taken out so he didn't investigate them as they are now. You know what I mean? So I just want everybody to know that I'm not some, bleeding heart Republican. I'm the person that got my eyes opened by the Democratic Party that they're vote blue no matter who, and Bernie Sanders was sent out there to bring in the youth vote, to bring in the grassroots activist people, to bring in those 20-year-old liberals who have never voted, and that 18 to 35-year-old or 18 to 32-year-old liberals who had never voted, or who had maybe only voted once for Obama, but they were disappointed in Obama, and that's where Bernie was. Bernie said it. Obama failed us. You know, he was the first person to call out Obama's policies and him bailing out the banks. Believe you me, Bernie talks a very good talk. But at the end of the day, Bernie stands with the establishment. Bernie stands with Hillary Clinton and said vote for her. Bernie stands for Joe Biden and says vote for him. And knowing that they're not going to ever, ever, ever endorse any of our policies or any of the policies that you want on that side. When Donald Trump said something during his campaign, I watched him literally do that same thing within months of his election. I've never seen that. I've never seen a politician say something during their campaign and actually do that something. And it's not, he didn't just do that with one thing. Like his entire his entire administration has been shaped around the promises he made to the people during his campaign. And I respect that. I had to ask myself, is my life better today than it was 5 years ago? In the middle of a fucking COVID pandemic, is my life better today than it was 5 years ago? And it is, definitely, no doubt about it. And that I can't deny. And if you're sitting there asking yourself the same question, the only person you're lying to is yourself if you say no. So, all right, hang on, let's turn it around. Oh, look. I was hoping my t-shirt was going to be here in time
Native
today.
Americans are amongst the most vulnerable and hardest hit by COVID.
Yeah, the more we lose our elders to COVID-19.
All right, let's see what's going on here.
These lips lift me and keep me grounded.
Thank you and good evening, everyone.
Here we go.
Tonight's a night to celebrate America.
Jimmy Carter. I can see him under that mask.
Express gratitude and thankfulness for all that's been
No, just
done
kidding.
and the opportunities that we've been given. I want to thank the
I'm just
commission
kidding.
for your support. Janet Brown, thank you. Thank you to the co-chairs. Thank you so much. You know, it's one thing to be a partner when times are kind of easy. It's amazing when times get tough. That's when real partnerships get formed that stick. And this has been a bonding experience. So thank you so much to the commission. Thank you to HCA Healthcare. They're the ones that have given you all these tests and have made sure that everybody here tonight is safe. Their goal was to make this the safest place in America tonight, along with the Secret Service, who I also want to thank, and Metro Police, who I want to thank. All together have made this the safest place in America tonight. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, Mayor Cooper, for your support. Thank you, Governor Lee. Thank you to the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation and the Nashville Chamber of Commerce, all of you. But most of all, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to the students of Belmont University for sharing their campus with you, all of you this week. This has been a complicated and unusual semester, to say the least. I want to thank the Ryman
thank you,
Hospitalities
Carly.
Corporation for
Thank you,
taking
Catherine.
several hundred of our students and letting them stay overnight last night and through the day today. I was worried the students would be complaining about that. Actually, they say they don't want to come back. They have a water park out there and all, but we're going to get them back. But our students have embraced the challenge of living safely together.
There we go.
And we simply couldn't have done that without them. You're probably wondering.
Hey
who
guys,
these
could you press
two
share
people
just
are that are
because
standing here beside
they're
me.
really suppressing
Well,
my
this is Molly
channel.
Deakins.
You can't even
This is
find it under
Kevin
Google
Turner.
anymore.
They co-chaired the student volunteer group of 250 students who made this thing happen here at Belmont University.
you.
I'm so grateful to them. Thank you, and thank all the Belmont volunteers for what you've done here. And finally, I have to say this, I've prayed enough about this happening that it'd be totally disingenuous if I didn't say, thank you, God, that this is about to happen.
God bless America. Thank you.
The First Lady. Rocking that mask. If you hear any snoring in the background, it's my dog. I'm so sorry. You never snore. What are you doing? Where the? I guess there's no sound yet because it's still setting up. Let's see. Oh my God! Look at there's 332,000 people watching this stream right now. Not my stream, their stream. That's because their stuff is getting shared and pushed way to the top. And when you Google debate stream, this is what comes up, not my stuff. Let me just see if there's anything else with sound. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's not ready yet.
Point to and say, this is someone that I am now taking advice from and who I think.
Oh, I hate him. Ah, Clinton,
I really
ass
think
kisser.
70, 80, 90, maybe 100 million people watching really want to hear about this guy. And it's just to come out as such a jumble when Donald Trump, whether it's muted or unmuted, when it just has a chance to start spewing all this Hunter Biden
I told
stuff.
you he's gonna say it. That's all they're worried about.
He was impeached over this.
Sorry.
So, he's in
I'm
the
gonna get it all out now,
meeting
guys.
With 11 days to go. It's beyond double.
They're so mad that they got this October surprise out on them. They thought that they were gonna get Trump with some Russia bullshit. No, no.
The coronavirus, of course, is one of the
Hey.
topics tonight, and while
Fast fact, how many of you guys knew that Hunter Biden's emails were actually for sale in Russia and the Ukraine for $50 million for the last 10 months? Yes. Hi, Julie. Thank you. Thank you. I just listened to, they were just playing rap songs with Trump's name in it earlier. Yep. Even, I think it was a Nelly song. They
Don't
were
know
playing.
where that playbook went. 8 months into this pandemic, cases are rising again across this
Blah,
country.
blah.
Donald Trump isn't suddenly going to protect all of us.
Yeah, I
He can't
definitely
even
got
take
my
the
drink
basic
ready.
stuff to
You got your
protect
popcorn?
himself.
I got my drink.
So, Philippe, as you know, since the last debate, President Trump and many people in his orbit tested positive for the coronavirus. So, how might the conversation
Which is still quite suspicious if you ask
be
me.
different tonight because of that?
I think on the question of health.
How many, yeah, I hate this guy. How many people find it suspicious that someone was able to get close enough to the first family after everyone having to be tested that comes in the White House every single day? Everyone, the president's tested daily, the first family's tested daily. Anyone that has a meeting with him is tested 2 days before and when they get there. There's every Secret Service member is tested. Every single person in his orbit is tested so constantly that they've started to put people around him who've already had corona because, they're probably safer than anything, right? So how did someone get close enough to the first family for them all to get corona? Come on, guys. Think about that. You don't find that a little suspicious? Yeah, as they pan in on the microphone. They tried to say he got it at the event outdoors in the Rose Garden for the Supreme Court lady, Amy Coney Barrett, when he announced her nomination. How do you really think he caught it outdoors and then took it back to his wife and son? Really? I'm sorry, but you're just not being honest with yourself if you tell me that this isn't suspect in some way, shape, or form. So I just find it very strange. I think they planned it that way because and somehow it was the actual virus was planted for the president to get. And I feel like, it was because the first debate went so bad, or excuse me, it was because that whole up to coming to the debate went so bad. Like they didn't want a second debate. They knew if that debate failed, that a second debate would kill Joe Biden. So how do you get out of a second debate? Well, the president can't debate if he's got corona, and they sure tried to pull it off that way. And then they had to do the separate town halls, which were absolutely not town halls. So they're still setting up. They're still getting there. So I'm just trying to talk a little bit because Philippe Reigns is nothing but a brown nosing, money laundering, Clinton cabal ass kisser.
Halftime special.
Vice President Joe Biden.
Get out and vote. The red wave is.
President Donald Trump.
We choose hope over fear, unity over division, science over fiction, truth over lies.
Yeah, he said truth over facts the first time that Alzheimer's. Sorry. I promise I'm going to shut up in just a minute.
The final presidential debate.
Boom. There you go.
Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell in the nation's capital with John Dickerson and Gail King. In just a few minutes, the presidential candidates will face off for the final time. You're looking at live pictures from the debate hall at Belmont University.
I'm just going to see if it's on what channels it's on so I can scroll back and forth for people. All right, Blaze. It's not started yet, so here we go. There's 3 in a row, so I can
These
scroll
lips
back and forth.
lift me up and keep me grounded, mostly. And these lips have a
There you go. Oh, that one's still silent, of course. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Well, that one's silent too, but we're getting closer. That's got like 41,000 people watching. I just wanted something with some. There you go.
I really don't think predictability is a good thing right now because the models are all based on sort of a 10% increase from 2018 or a 20% increase from 2016. And none of those may be adequate to apply here. And I would say the one thing about Jeannie's point about women, suburban women and elderly, these were Trump voters 4 years ago. He's trying to get them back.
Yeah, no question about it. So just to set the stage once again, we're waiting for the debate to begin in about 90 seconds from right now. We expect we'll have the introduction from Kristen Welker. And to remind you, it's different from other debates we've seen. First of all, it's at the time of COVID, everybody has masks on. But secondly, they've got a new rule that says at least on each of these 6 topics for the first 2 minutes, each candidate will get a clear shot without the other person being able to talk. And they're enforcing that quite specifically by not having their microphone on. And Jeannie, we'll see whether that works or not.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we're going to see, I would suspect maybe the president, not Joe Biden, talking while he's talking and you can't hear him. I don't know. This whole, mic issue is something we've never seen before, as far as I know, and Rick can probably correct me, in a presidential debate where you've had mics shut off from a candidate. I don't suspect it's ever been necessary the way it is tonight.
Yeah,
Only they tried to pull it with Reagan, but Reagan said, I paid for this money.
The mic's being turned off, Rick.
Oh, no, he doesn't want to have any moment where he isn't talking in a debate. So he wants to be the center of attention. And my guess is, regardless of the technology, he will be tonight.
Okay, and now we are going to go live to Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee for the setting of the second and final presidential debate, which will be emceed by Kristen Welker. She is from NBC News.
Hello,
right
emu
now
cats.
to the debate stage, and here's Kristen Welker.
Sure is, Julie. Remember who Kristen Welker is, guys. Got caught. Hang on.
Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker.
She got caught on a hot mic giving the Clinton campaign the question before the live stream. She didn't know that she was already live, and she told them, we're going to talk about Flynn, okay? And this will be the last question. She was giving them the question before the live stream. So that's who this moderator is. Keep that in mind while you watch this debate.
The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question.
It was supposed to be on foreign policy. It's always been on foreign policy. They changed it at the last
And the
minute.
commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on.
Amen,
But on
Julie.
behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country.
Get 'em, buddy.
And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital.
With all my heart.
And I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime. Nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go.
So we're not
away,
just curing it here, we're helping cure it everywhere.
We're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Amen,
Okay,
sir.
former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. You hear nothing
It's
else.
1% of what was originally
Hear this.
estimated to die.
Anyone who's responsible
1%.
for not taking control. In fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are
Ask him how many died under bird flu.
a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over
Or swine flu, whatever one it was.
70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives.
Oh,
and we're in a
that's
circumstance where the
corny.
president thus
That's
far
guessing.
still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask.
And
all
lock
the
us
time.
down.
I would make sure
You hear
we
that?
move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in
Masks
rapid
all
testing. I would
the
make
time,
sure
he
that
said.
we set up national standards.
So my daughter has to wear her mask while playing in
Schools,
gym
open up
class.
businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this.
How?
I will make sure we have a plan.
How?
President Trump,
She
I'd
asked you
like to
specifically.
follow up with you in your
Trump gave
comments. You talked about
specifics.
taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well, and we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you because this is new information. You have said a vaccine is coming soon within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy.
That's a plan, guys. You hear that? That's a plan. Biden has no plan.
100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
He just keeps saying, I'll take care of it.
40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter.
The whole summer, they never even talked about Corona.
No clear plan, and there's no prospect.
They rioted all summer. No Corona. Corona was gone, remember?
People before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no
We're
plan.
going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, "Oh, I should have, moved quicker." But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months.
Amen. They were telling people to go on cruises. March 3rd.
Swine flu, and it was a total disaster. Far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now.
Yep.
But it was
I was in prison when swine flu happened. And guess what? I got it.
Look, his own person.
Believe me, I
who
know.
ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic. It was horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way, every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him.
Because he was trying to get his people in there.
He started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed.
Oh, I had that shit in December. I got that shit the last 2 weeks of December, and it lasted till the end of January.
Then he gets out of the hospital.
They didn't know what it was at the time. They kept calling it a mysterious pneumonia type
There's not another
virus.
serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
Say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does.
That's right.
He has the ability to.
Oh, I'm sorry,
himself
BC.
up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that.
Right.
By the way,
And you can't wear masks forever either. I watch my 17-year-old daughter who's completely out of breath as soon as she gets home from having to wear that mask all day.
Every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And, I caught it. I learned a
That's
lot.
right.
I learned a lot.
Shit
Great
happens.
doctors, great hospitals.
Just like the flu.
And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover.
Yep.
99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation. Or
Destroying everything. Suicides, poverty.
Has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You have
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it.
Oh, I need a
People
drink.
are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning.
Do you want-
That man or wife going to
Hang
bed
on.
tonight and
Let him
reach
talk.
over and try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said, he said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about
What did he just say, yo?
I take full responsibility.
Thank you.
It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
Fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say?
He stopped everything. He did everything you asked him to do.
Easter, don't worry, the warm weather.
He was
Don't worry,
trying
maybe
to
just
keep
bleach.
people
He said-
calm.
Somebody said that. A lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the
That's
president
his
said.
job.
Even today,
You
he
would
thinks
know
we
about
are
that.
in control.
You just
We're
lie.
about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown.
She sure was.
But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing.
Look at the bottom of the screen. The first thing they put up. Trump, it's not my... They're such assholes, yo.
Now he says I should have closed.
You want to know why? Because they can't put Joe Biden's words up. They don't make no effing sense.
You certainly did. You certainly did.
I talked about his xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handle.
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
That's obvious.
Is that, do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President Biden? Okay.
Exactly, because you don't have anything to say.
Strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it.
Do you hear this?
What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression...
He wants more shutdowns, masks 24/7 for at least 3 months, and inside and out.
Shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part.
No, it
Why
didn't.
businesses have gone
We
under,
had
why
to.
schools are closed, why
So our hospitals could fucking catch up.
Why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
He gave more money than they asked
No,
for.
I'm not shutting down the but there are.
And he did executive orders when they refused to vote.
That's above a certain level. Everybody says.
Yes, Nikki. Oh my God. All he tried to do was keep everyone calm and not go out and buy all the damn toilet paper in the world.
Under more control. But when you do open, give
Like my shirt says, 2020, when the world lost its when the world lost its shit and they had no CP.
Smaller classes, more teachers, more pods, and he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York.
Amen.
You look at what's going on in California. You look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Democrats all. They're shut down so tight, and they're dying.
Killing businesses. A New York City restaurant owner got a ticket today for having his doors open, and even though his store is takeout, he had his doors open because his restaurant was hot. The man came in and asked to be seated, and he said, "No, we don't seat people. We only do takeout." The guy took out his badge and said, "I'm writing you a ticket." How effed up is that?
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a
Of
coronavirus
course.
spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
The masks are what's killing are making our kids endangered.
Teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive.
Do you know how many children have committed suicide during this, just during the lockdown itself?
Suicide.
I did a video on it. Check it out.
Alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening.
Sorry.
And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely.
So they shot Biden up with some good shit
resources
tonight.
to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another.
Trump
You need
did
to
all
be in a
that.
position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is
No
in fact
plan from
infected.
Trump, he
You
says.
need to be
Where's
able to
Biden's
trace.
plan,
You
though?
need to be able
Look
to
at the bottom,
provide
guys.
all the
Where's Biden's
resources
plan?
that
They
are
gave him a
needed to do
chance. He
this.
didn't have a
And that
plan.
is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we can open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I
Just
will say
as
this.
dangerous
If you
as
go
the
and look at
flu.
what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money.
Amen.
Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic
For the next 20
these
years?
are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's
He saved
leaving
it in the
New York.
80s, you
Take a look
guys.
at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and
The
red
number of
states.
deaths
They're
in
all
New
the
York
United States.
are like
And look at the
literally a
states
third
that are
of
having
all
such a
of our
spike
deaths total.
in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses
Wow.
need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and
course he
nothing's
did.
happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000
It's
people.
over a
in this
third.
country.
President Trump, what
When you
about
say spike,
She's cutting him
take a
off.
look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now, it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors.
Sounds
with
like a
heart
plan to
problems
me.
and diabetes
They're not putting
and
that
we
at the
will
bottom. They're
protect
just
with the best
rerunning. It's
testing
not
in
my
the world
fault.
by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you
Biased-ass
before we move on
Bloomberg
to our
News.
next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, then who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that,
Hang out after the show. We're going to do a thing on Fauci.
and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people.
He told
He
us
was
everything.
told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of
No,
your
he
colleagues,
didn't say that.
recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us.
He was trying to keep
because
us
he didn't want us to
calm.
panic.
Right.
He didn't want us. Americans don't
That's
panic.
his job.
He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous.
Sure did, BC. He took his medicine.
To respond, and then we're
The
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
Amen.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow
Amen.
away your
Get
records
him.
that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to
Don't
move
tell me
on.
about Wall
Average
Street.
contribution $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section,
Wow.
which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just
Typical
last night,
Democrat
top
answer.
intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence.
Oh,
this
here it
election.
comes, guys.
Both
Trump's going to
countries
do,
have
I guarantee he
US
drops it in
voter
during this
registration
section.
information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. It's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty.
What's the
That's
price they're going to pay,
on
Joe?
right now. They're interfering
What
with
is your
American
plan?
sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to them a lot. I don't think he said a word.
Well, he
I don't
doesn't
know
take
why
money
he
from them,
hadn't
so he
said a
doesn't
word
really have to
about
worry
it.
about what they
And
have
I
to
don't
say
know
like
what
you
he has
do.
recently said, if
With
anything,
China.
to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being...
He brought it up himself.
Being fed
Oh, he's
information
done now.
That is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that
His
everything
national
that's going
security
on
advisor
here
said
about Russia is wanting
it
to
was
make sure
not,
that I do not
the
get
laptop
elected the next
had
president of the
no
United States because
intelligence
they
to
know
do with
I know
Russia.
them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our
Still
sovereignty.
doesn't say what that price
President
is.
Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have
Here it
2 minutes
goes.
to
Here it
respond. For
goes.
2 elections in a row now.
I'm gonna
there
shut
has
my
been
mouth.
Substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes
Well,
uninterrupted.
let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia.
Bingo.
And it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family
going.
got $3.5 million. And, you know, someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5? I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that. And through John Ratcliffe, who was fantastic, he said, the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO. You know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra 130 billion, going to 420 billion dollars a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher.
He helped them
than
fight
Russia than
for their
Donald
sovereignty.
Trump. And I'll tell you, they
Obama
were so
wouldn't.
bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think
Is Joe Biden turning
to
gray?
the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family.
We
But
watched
what he
it.
said was damning. And regardless of me, I
It's
think
at the
you have to
beginning of
clean
this
it up
stream
and
if
talk
you
to
didn't
the
see it,
American
guys.
people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
Okay, Speaker.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life.
Oh,
We learned
you're
that
gonna
this
get
president
purged.
paid 50
Perjury.
times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China.
He admits
and
to
in
doing
fact,
business in China.
is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president. I have released all of my tax returns. 22
Here we go with the
years.
tax returns,
22
yo.
years of
Oh
tax
my
returns.
God.
You have not released a
He
single
does have
solitary
black
year of
eyes.
your
Oh
tax
my God,
return.
you're so right.
What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot.
He stopped
China's
doing all
paying you a
his
lot.
deals.
And your hotels
His
and all your
kids and him
businesses
have
all around
lost
the country,
billions.
all around the world. And China's
He's
building
the
a new
only
road
man who
to a
became
new
president and lost money.
golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as.
Ha ha! Oh
show
shit!
How successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago. I said, "What did I pay?" They said, "Sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars." I prepaid my tax tens over the last number of years.
His
Tens
eyes
of
are
millions
so
of
black,
dollars
yo.
I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell
told
when
you that.
released
Excuse
them?
me.
Look at
And
his
it wasn't
eyes.
written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750. Which
Yo, he's on some good shit, you guys. They got his eyes totally. I bet you they microdosed him or something.
I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from
Look at his
Russia.
hand.
You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement. We have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not. But you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have to
about all of this.
respond to that.
I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the audit
deadline
is
for when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very badly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars.
Nikki.
It's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in
I
advance.
want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign.
He spent the
entanglement
last 4 days
questions that have been
practicing
raised.
these answers. You know that,
To talk
right?
about this more broadly.
Over and
Respond
over and
very
over,
quickly.
they hit him with these questions.
Why did he? He's been saying this for 4 years. Show us. Just show us.
You guys
Stop
have
playing
released
around.
every
You've been
tax
saying for
return that
4
you got your
years
hands
you're
on,
gonna raise
made a
your
fool
taxes.
out of
Nobody
you,
knows,
not
Mr. President.
him.
What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last
Why would
time
he pay
said
more
what he
taxes
paid,
if he doesn't
said,
have
"I
to?
only
Would
pay
you?"
that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So
And President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
Sure.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should
Bingo.
ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found
If you or me
no
made
collusion and nothing
$5
wrong.
million a
48
year,
million. I
would
guarantee
we
if
want
I
to pay
spent
1
million
cent
on
more
you,
in
Joe, I
taxes
could
than we
find
already
plenty
have
wrong,
to?
because
All
the
right.
kind
I
of
live in New
things
York.
that you've done and the
If Joe
kind of
Biden
monies
becomes
that your
president, I'm
family
going to pay
has taken. I mean, your
62%
brother
of
made
my
money in
income
Iraq,
into taxes
millions
total.
of dollars. Your other brother,
You fucking
made a
kidding
fortune,
me?
and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very
62%.
well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have
If
been
Trump
questions
wins,
about the
he's
work your son
getting
has done
rid
in
of
China
the
and
federal
for the Canadian
withholdings
energy
permanently,
company
the one that
Glencore,
he
Vice
put a
President.
more
In
right now that
retrospect,
they're
was
not taking
anything
out.
about those relationships inappropriate
So
or
what do you
unethical?
think my choice
Nothing was
is?
unethical. Here's what the deal.
Get rid of a tax or
With
pay
regard
more
to Ukraine.
taxes? I wonder.
We had this whole question about whether or not, because he was
Hi,
on the
baby,
board
you
of
want to grab your
Charisma,
Come on.
a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing. Number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me,
No, he
which
didn't.
they would not do.
Yes,
It
they
did
did.
not do,
They
because
gave
it
him
never,
all the dirt
ever,
on
ever
you.
happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Wow.
President Trump, let me
By the
ask
way,
my question to you.
Could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best,
Oh, shit.
not
Oh,
the best
shit.
reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month.
Say it,
Listen to
Trump.
this.
He got kicked out of the Navy for crack.
And they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President
That's
respond to that quickly,
100%
and then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump.
It is wrong.
Since you took office,
Oh,
you've
wow.
never divested from your business. You've personally promoted.
So basically, he's admitting that he's just saying it's not illegal.
This week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank
Joe
account
Biden
in
just
China.
admitted to
So
all
how
his
does voters
son's
know that you don't
money
have any
bullshit,
foreign
but
funds?
he said
I
it's
have
not
many
illegal.
bank accounts, and
It's
they're
okay.
all listed and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to.
He's done no
which
new
everybody
business
knows
since he
about,
became
is
president.
listed.
He's
The
lost
bank
billions
account
of
was in
dollars under the Trump name.
2013.
He's the only man who became
That's what
president
it
and
was. It was
gave
open
up
to
his
do- it
income
was
every
closed
single
in
month to
2015,
charity
I believe.
and
And
lost
then I decided, because I
billions.
was going to do, I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before.
That's right.
So I
He didn't
closed
do it while he
before I
was
even
in
ran for
office.
president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking
Okay,
up money
President
every
Trump,
place he
thank you. We
goes.
do
Not
need to
true.
move
Look at her
on.
interrupt
I do
him.
want to ask you, Vice President Biden,
Again,
about
they're talking
China.
about Trump
Let's
at the
talk about
bottom.
China more broadly. There
Trump's
has,
taxes,
of course,
Trump's taxes.
President Trump has said that they should pay for
You
not
see this?
being fully
Nothing about
transparent
Biden's
with
son.
regards
Nothing
to
about
coronavirus.
Biden's
If
statements.
you were
Always
president,
Trump, Trump,
would you
Trump,
make
Trump, Trump.
China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger at all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules, you play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right.
How are you going to do that when you're owned by China?
Okay. Very quickly, and then we're going to move on to North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two. Number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President
Look
Trump,
at the bottom.
China policy though. What
No, but
specifically
wait a
are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and
That's
billions
right.
of dollars. I just gave
Tariffs,
$28
tariffs,
billion.
motherfucker.
Sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers'
China,
money.
No, it was China's tariff
Taxpayers'
money.
Income from
yeah,
China.
you know the taxpayer is, it's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid out. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about.
Sure
there's a
did.
reason why he's-
Trump stepped into North Korea where no president has ever done, because you know why? Because in North Korea, they used to yank over the South Korean soldiers that would be right there on the line or that would be close to the line. They'd yank people over. It was to kidnap them and never be seen
If you're a
again.
middle-class family,
Trump
you're
changed
getting hurt
that
badly right
by being
now.
the first person
You're
to
sitting
step
at
over
the
it.
kitchen table this morning deciding, but we can't get new tires.
Again, look at the bottom
because
of
we
your
have to wait
screen.
another
Trump,
month or so.
close.
Or we're gonna
Everything's
be
about
able to
Trump,
pay
Trump,
more.
Trump,
Who's
Trump,
gonna
Trump,
tell her
Trump.
She can't go back to
Nothing about Biden
community college.
or his son.
Decisions you're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claremont.
Yeah, BC.
They're in
He
trouble.
got nominated 3
We should
times.
be
Hi,
talking
bless,
about your
baby.
families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is
to
a
talk
typical
about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds,
No.
Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk
I'm
about
not
North
a typical
Korea.
politician.
Okay.
That's why I got elected.
Let's
get off the subject of China. Let's talk around, sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've noted the fact that there hasn't
this
been
is
a
about
war
the North
or
Korea.
long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop
Oh, I
its
need another
nuclear
bong
arsenal.
for this,
Do you
man.
see that as a
Jesus.
betrayal of the relationship you forged just 30 seconds ago?
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war. And he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago,
And there's no war.
he broke
And there's
into
no
a
war.
certain area. They
And
said,
there's
"Oh,
no
there's gonna
war.
be trouble." I
That's
said,
all
"No, they're
that
not,"
matters.
because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look,
Look,
instead of
you don't
being
see
on a
that at
war,
the bottom.
Millions of people, Seoul, you know, is
Trump-
25 miles away.
Trump stepped over
Millions
DMZ
and
line,
millions, 32
North
million
Korea.
people in Seoul. Millions
Peace
of
in
people
North
would be
Korea.
dead
No
right
war.
now.
No, that doesn't say that. They're still on the bank account in
Vice
China.
President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration.
It's so ridiculous. They think we're so stupid.
Rein in this persistent threat.
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making it clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, "Why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military movement in South Korea. I said, because North Korea is a problem.
Joe's meds are wearing off, guys. He needs a break.
We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they
We're not at war.
Able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without
BC and me thinking the same.
under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
They tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds, President.
They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I gotta give a chance to respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know
it's
what?
okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have to
leaders
move
of other
on.
countries
We have
is
a
a
lot
good
of
thing.
we have a lot of questions to get
Yes.
to.
Now,
Your
I
response.
And we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded
Oh, please.
the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not
No, he didn't meet with Obama because Obama was black. That's what he said.
Sanctions on you.
That's what the president of North Korea said at the time. He didn't respect him as the president of the United States. Is it wrong? Yes, but that's the truth.
North Korea was a mess. And in fact, if you remember the first
Exactly.
2 or 3
Korea
months,
is a very
there was
sketchy,
very
touchy
dangerous
subject.
period in my first
And the
3
fact that
months
there's no
before we
war
sort of worked
and that
things out
he
a
is
little bit.
able to
It was
walk
a very
over the
good-
DMZ
they
and
left
create
us a
some type of
mess. And
relationship
Obama
with
would be, I think, the
with
first
Kim
to say
Jong-un
it was
is
the
better than
single
any other
biggest
president in
problem
our
we thought
history.
that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families
And,
and the economy.
the
One of the issues that's most
Middle East
important
deal,
to them
peace
is
deal that he
healthcare,
just
as you
made,
both know. Today there was a
they
key
didn't
vote
even
on a new Supreme
acknowledge
Court Justice Amy Coney
the
Barrett,
existence of
and
Israel
healthcare
before.
is at the center
Trump
of
just
her
made it so
confirmation
that
fight. Over 20
literally
million
now
Americans
there's
get their
flights
health
taking
insurance
place to
through the
Israel, you
Affordable
guys.
Care
Like,
Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court.
oh yeah,
and
Kim's
your
alive again, by the
administration,
way.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
is
the new
advocating
Kim.
for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that
Have you seen
law,
the picture
those
side by
20
side? It
million
is
Americans
definitely not
lose
the
their
old
health
Kim. They're
insurance
just his
almost
sister. They're
overnight.
treating
So
his
what would
sister,
you do if those
getting
people
ready
have their
to
health insurance
put
taken
his
away
sister
with
in
2
office.
minutes
But
uninterrupted?
First of all, I've
I
already
think he
done
died of
something
corona.
that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. It's gone.
I love how he
Now it's in
explains it
court
so simple.
Because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision, run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down, everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better healthcare, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care. And we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice
They
President
cut his
Biden,
mic
yes,
off.
this is for you. Your healthcare plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden care. The public option is an option.
Oh,
that
become
says
Biden
that
care. Oh, I'm
if you,
excited
in
about
fact,
that.
do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing
Right.
Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the
He's
reason
reading off
why
of
I
some-
had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't, not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare.
Yes, they did.
They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're
Bullshit.
going to make sure we're in a
I didn't
situation
choose.
that
I was
we
forced.
actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. There is no, he's never come up
Just
with
like
a
you
plan.
couldn't
I guess
fix
we're
the
gonna
VA
get
and
the pre-existing
manufacturing
conditions
wasn't
plan at the
coming
same time we
back.
get
There
the
wasn't a
infrastructure
magic
plan
wand. Remember all that?
we've waited since 17, 18, 19,
Funny.
20.
Fix the
fact-
VA.
I still have a little few more minutes. I
Manufacturing
know
came
you're
back.
anxious. The fact is that it's already cost the American people because of this terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover. 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million
Exactly.
more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions.
Imagine
What are
how
they
much
gonna
money
do?
he's sifted off of us over the last 47 years,
Something
Julie.
that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
I
What's
say
your response
it's
to that?
ridiculous. It's like saying that,
I
we're,
don't know why he
the
does that.
idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity.
That's
an
all,
opportunity
folks.
to
I
have
know it's
healthcare for their
hard.
children. How many of you home are worried?
I explained
and
why
rolling
I'm
around in
voting
bed
for
at night
Trump.
wondering what in God's
At the
name
end of the
you're gonna
day,
do
I
if
live
you
in
get
New
sick?
York.
Because you've lost your home insurance, your health
Hang on a
insurance, your
second.
company's gone under. We have to.
I don't really
provide
care about Biden right now. Hang on. I live in New York State, for instance, okay? And I have to ask myself, am I better today than I was 5 years ago?
He was now
Hang on.
as vice president for
And I
8 years,
am.
and it's not like
Because
it
if
was 25
Biden gets
years
in,
ago.
his
It's
tax
three
proposal
and
says I will pay
three-fourths. It was
62% of my income into
right?
taxes.
Less than 4 years ago.
Trump's proposal says I will eliminate federal tax withholding permanently.
He's vice president. I mean,
The one that he's already stopped taking out of our checks, the one that's made our checks be so much closer to what we actually bring in.
Democrats want it. You're going to
I'm
have
sorry,
tax
at the end of the
reductions,
day,
just like you went with fracking.
I have
We're
no
not gonna
option
fracking, we're gonna stop
because
fracking,
the,
we're gonna
the
stop fracking.
Democrats
Then he
are
goes to
literally
Pennsylvania
saying to
and he
me,
gets a nomination.
either
We're
let
gonna
me
have
tax you to
fracking.
death.
And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking.
I have one, I mean, come on now, this is my life. I have to survive.
Very much the way you're handling
Do I
this.
think that
But somebody
there's
should
things
have
about
to-
Trump that drive me
He
nuts?
does for a year.
Absolutely.
We have a-
But he
we have a-
keeps
we have
his
a number
word.
of- We have a number of topics.
No, but that's a
We have-
See how she keeps cutting him off and not Biden?
It's the same thing with socialized
I have to
medicine.
Vice
respond.
President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care.
Nice, Carly, nice.
Period. And
Nice.
the Biden care proposal will in fact provide for that affordable
I'm voting
healthcare.
in person
Lower
because I
premiums,
think
lower
it's really
premiums, it's gonna
important
cost some money.
up here
It's
in New
gonna
York
cost
to
over
vote in person. That by mail shit is just not safe up here.
And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans.
I don't
lower
trust
your
it at all.
premiums, Deal with unexpected billing and have your drug
Right,
prices
that's all
drop
I'm doing.
significantly.
It's not
He
about
keeps
their
talking about
personalities
he
to
hasn't
me. I mean, I
done
can
a
pick on
thing
both of
for
them in many
anybody on
ways.
healthcare. Not a thing.
But when it comes to their policies, Trump's got 3 years of proof now. It's not all talk now.
And healthcare.
I showed you all who I was for in 2016 at the beginning of this stream.
Medicare,
I fought for Bernie.
Destroying your Social
I've been
Security,
where many
and
of
this
you are
whole
at,
country will come
questioning
down.
yourself
Bernie
right now.
Sanders
If
tried it
if
for
you're
his state. He
not
tried
sure
it in his
about
state.
things,
His governor
I've been
was a
there.
very liberal governor. They want to make it work.
Okay, let's let Vice President Biden respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's a
Biden
very
responds.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden.
Oh, you know your name tonight?
People because I disagreed with them.
You know what you're running for?
And the
Senate?
idea that we're in a situation
Oh,
that
yeah, you're in California. You're going to pay 62% too if Joe Biden wins. Look it up.
if in fact at Social
50 Cent put it on his Instagram the other day. He put up Joe Biden's tax plan and what it would cost people in New York, California, New Jersey, and New York City. And California will pay 62% of their income total in taxes
This is the guy who's trying
if Joe
to
Biden wins.
Medicare. So no, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on.
Sorry, guys, I got to talk here and there, or else they'll shut my stream down. Right, Nikki?
Look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move on.
See how she keeps cutting Trump off and never Biden.
We're not gonna have time to talk about it.
If I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Exactly.
Very quickly.
Exactly.
The idea that the stock market is booming is his only
Exactly.
measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claremont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis,
All right, good.
the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars. Because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there?
Those billionaires hire ordinary people like me. Like I just got my first job in 15 years during the pandemic. Thank you.
That's like one of
Because he gave the billionaires the money to pay people.
Next question. Let me move on to
My
next
wife was able to
question.
keep her job
Tonight,
thanks to
more than 12
PPE.
million people are
I was
out of
working
work,
for the
and as
census.
of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief
So you can
bill.
see your
Mr.
taxes
President,
going
why
out.
haven't you been
And
able to
actually,
get
you've
them
been
to
blessed
30
because,
seconds here.
listen, that's all, folks. You've been blessed because for half this year, Trump made an executive order saying that he stopped taking out federal taxes. So you haven't even really seen what kind of taxes you're going to lose until another Democrat gets in. Because Trump promised if he wins, that he will never put that tax back on. So you'll never see that federal tax if Trump wins. But if Biden wins, you're going to end up paying 62% of your income every time into the state and federal taxes total.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
Imagine that. Over half of your check going to the state and federal taxes.
Why ain't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President.
We made it,
Biden,
you know,
because
Republicans.
let me ask
Yeah,
Vice
50
President
Cent said he
Biden
didn't want to be
a
20
leader of the
cent.
Democratic Party. Why have you
Because they say that increasing the taxes on income tax will give them the money to do public health care options and all these programs that they keep talking about. These free public college, free this, free that, free student loans. How do you think they're gonna pay for that? They pay for that by jacking up our taxes on.
That have to balance their budget, the states have to balance their
Right,
budgets.
that's why when you start, they say in your 20s, hang on, she is so perfect for this. That's all, folks, listen, you're so perfect for this situation. They say in your 20s, if you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart, but in your 30s, if you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. And that means you have learned by watching your paycheck over them 10 years to see who is looking out for your best interest based on who is taking all of your money and wasting it on bullshit and who is trying to save you the most money. The first thing Trump did when he got in office was slice taxes and regulations, and immediately our incomes went up. Immediately we got less taxes taken out of us. And during the pandemic, he again made an executive order because the Democrats wouldn't vote for it. He made an executive order to stop taking federal income tax out of you. That's why right now, if you look at your federal withholding on your pay stub, it should stay zero. That was thanks to Donald Trump. And he said, I will leave it that way permanently if I am elected. Can you imagine the difference? What you're making now because he's not taking anything out? Now take out 62% total and imagine that in your head. How are you going to live like that? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to ever get any further than where you are today if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're borrowing from next week's paycheck before, half the week's even over? And that's also they can provide these free programs.
We are talking a lot
All
about
right, hang on.
small businesses and business owners these days.
There is going to be two. It should be a FICA tax and a state tax, but you're not paying federal tax right now. No, they're not going to make college free, but they're trying to make public tuition, like state schools. They want to make, if you have a certain income and you set, like in New York, we actually have a program, and it's like called the Excelsior program for free public college. It's at SUNY universities. But you have to qualify by like you have to sign your life away, basically. You have to agree to work for the state for like 10 years afterwards. Like you can't leave the New York State if you take their free college program. You have to work in this state for like 10 years afterwards. Oh, wow. I'm sorry, Julie. I know what you mean about that, though. I've watched my wife. They're killing her. She has to keep working more and more and more just to make ends meet. But at the same time, they'll just keep taking more out of her. She hits that 40 hours. All her overtime is definitely just totally double taxed.
We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses?
And I was denied for disability 4 times, so I gave up and I finally took I got the census job, and I might be working for the Housing Authority census after this. Cross my fingers.
Consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but what I really.
Oh yeah, right now Trump's got the student loan thing on hold. They're not collecting loans, and they're calling out right now saying if you make under $100,000 a year, you can get your loans cleared right now. So if you didn't know that, look into it, because Trump signed a bill to make it so that if you would make under 100 grand a year right now and you owe student loans, you apply for it, and within 30 days they'll clear out your whole student loan. I'm actually going to sign up for it for my wife.
First responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it.
Well, here we go with COVID again.
They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business.
Yes, they do.
That is simply not true.
Yes, it is. Mom and pop businesses can't handle that yet.
And we're going to talk about families within this.
Especially when their businesses have been ruined for COVID.
Separated children from their parents at the border, at least.
No, Carly, I wouldn't either.
You've since reversed your zero.
Not at all. But that's how Cuomo screwed over New Yorkers with that free shit.
More than 500
Acted like he was doing
How will
something.
these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country.
Amen.
We now have
That's what's happening. They don't want to let them go, but if they don't, their businesses are going under.
Brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they
Now
have to
they're
come
getting
in
ticketed
legally, and they come in through.
as a way to make money.
With their
Let
families,
me just say,
Mr.
they
President.
built cages. They used to say, I built the cages.
Because the Democrats
And then
have
they had a
these
picture in a certain newspaper.
track and tracers running out trying to catch everybody, businesses doing the wrong thing, and now they're getting tickets.
And then it was determined they were built in 2014.
But that's because of Democrat governors. That's not because of Trump.
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes. And through
It's very hard right now. This is the worst, most divisive election I've ever participated in. So I understand that this has got to be difficult for a first-time person, a person who hasn't decided yet.
To make it a disincentive.
I definitely respect what you're going through. I know, I identify with it
Really
totally.
strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over, their parents.
Stick around afterwards. We're going to do some talking about Fauci.
And it makes us a laughing stock and
Uh,
it's every notion of who we
Yeah, we're
are.
gonna do some questions, some answers, some talk about Fauci, some talk about policy. We're gonna do some, just like a half hour of chit chat before I go.
The cages. Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's
Who built the cages,
talk
Joe?
about what we're talking about.
Say it again, Trump. Who built the cages, Joe?
Their kids were ripped from their arms and separated.
They had, oh my God, you had to separate them because there was human traffickers that was using kids to get it across the border. Tell them that, Joe.
Where to go?
Because your President Obama made it that way.
It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say
it.
this, they
10
went down, we
seconds,
brought
and then I need to-
reporters, everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of them
Kids went missing during Obama administration, 1,500 of them.
The cages. I'd love you to
Not,
answer that.
and now Trump, they actually have a thing on the website showing how the last 1,200 children were all reunited with parents, except for 200 that stayed here, and 200 of them stayed here with their, what do you call them, sponsors, excuse me. But during the during Obama administration, 1,500 were found to be sex slaves. They went missing. They were put in foster homes where they were used as literal little slaves around the house. These children were. So I hate to say this, but when these sex traffickers are using children, mothers in Guatemala are selling their children to allow these sex traffickers to get them across the border, and say this is my daughter, and get them across the border as a family, and go to get, what do you call it? You know, where they ask for amnesty or whatever. It happens every day. Like, look it up. Google Guatemalans or Salvadorians selling their children. It's just they're that desperate right now.
Illegal. And you say, oh no, mom, leave me here.
No, they don't at all. The only thing they care about the kids is the nasty stuff that they do to them.
20,000 of them are first responders.
I can't imagine. I just did not know there was that many pedophiles in this country, let alone in the party that I used to clean.
He had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do.
Amen.
And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catching
Exactly.
police. We got rid of a lot of horrible.
A lot of that
things
goes
they
down.
put
It's
in
terrible.
and that they lived with. But he had
They say 80% of the women who walk across that border who have made the trek, 80% of all girls, females, old and young, together, 80% of them are sexually assaulted.
If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released.
Years
Guess what?
later.
They showed up.
No, they
For
didn't.
hearing.
No, they
This is
didn't.
the first president in the history of the United States of America that's anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country.
Because we don't have any more room. Because of you guys. There's no more room in asylum. You have a bunch of sex offenders using these kids for asylum. He had to straighten it out. Then we got a pandemic, and then we had to stop letting anybody in and take care of our own people for a little bit.
So important. It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration
Exactly.
of the laws.
Exactly.
Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer
They
would
were.
come in.
Do you know how many MS-13 members were part of the catch and release program? They were caught at the border. They were given a ticket for 2 years later, 3 years later, to show up at court. Yes, we do need to deal with the homeless. We knew that we should be taking care of the homeless, the vets, all that. We should be taking care of. You're absolutely right. That should be something that should always be. We're the richest country in the world. We should not have people starving and living on the streets. It's just not acceptable. You're absolutely right.
I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might.
Oh, we were talking about Coyote is a person who gets paid to get someone across the border illegally, and many of them are sex traffickers, and so they end up raping or sexually assaulting the children, the female girls, the young girls, pregnant women, women with children. It doesn't matter. They pay to get this man to get them across the border, and then they're basically dependent on this man. So they'll get so far, and the man will say, you know, like, if you don't do this, I'm not going to take you any further. And so that they become his sex slave until he gets where, yeah. Please vote to lower rent if you live in Cali. Oh my gosh, yeah, I feel so bad for you Californians and your rental costs too. Do you know California is making it so that if you leave California and move to another state and you have an income, like a certain income that's high, and you're leaving, like you know how Joe Rogan did? Now they're making it so for 10 years they can collect taxes on you even when you move to another state. That's how fucked up California is right now. They're going to collect taxes from you for 10 years after you leave their state.
One of the reasons why
Now, believe me, it's a pretty high income.
which is 90%
See, I was born in New York. It's just as bad. Girl, I hate saying it. I say it just like that with a sad face.
If she's pulled over, make sure
I feel like I don't belong here. I think Kaylee's going to vote more red than it ever did.
reach for the glove box. mailbox because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter
Hey
how
girl, I
wealthy or
did
how
Section
poor they
8.
are,
Don't
has
be.
to teach their child.
We all had to
They're
do what
walking
we
down
got to
the
do
street.
to keep a
Don't
roof
have
over
who
our
you have when you
head.
go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel.
Do you hear this? This is what he wants black people to do.
A person making $300,000, child of a
What?
$300,000 a year person, or someone who's on food
This is how you
stamps.
should answer
The
the
fact of the
police.
matter is, there is institutional racism in America, and we have always said we've never lived up to it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly.
So here he goes with the America has never been good thing.
Not
He
exclusion.
just got
This
trashed
is the
for this
first
all
person to
day in the
come along and
news,
say,
but he's going to
"That's
say
the
it
end of
again.
that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better
I can't believe
education,
Joe's still
better
going.
healthcare, better access
He
to
must have had some
schooling,
good ass
better access
fucking
to
crystal tonight.
opportunity to borrow money to start businesses.
He had
All
some
the
of that
things we
ice,
can
right?
do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things.
Right, he's still right,
Just
exactly,
give
Julie.
people
At
a
the end of the
shot.
day,
It's
he
about
had
accumulating
47
the
years
ability
and
to
has
have
done
wealth
none
as
of
well as
this.
it is
He's
to be free
repeated this.
from
Do you know he
violence.
repeated his speech from the
President
80s,
Trump,
like 2
same
weeks ago,
question to you, and let me
word for
remind
word?
you of the question. I
Repeated
would
his
like you to
speech from the
speak directly
80s.
to these families. Do you understand
BC,
why
I knew you was
parents
gonna
care
laugh.
for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did.
Look at that, Julie. You know our press. You know.
When he did such harm to the black community.
Yes, we would. He's held. You guys know it. Not just China either now, because his son with them child porn pictures. You don't know. Like I said, they were selling them in Russia and Ukraine. How many people could blackmail him now? How many people could blackmail him if he becomes president?
Than Donald Trump. And
Look
if
at
you
the black eyes, guys.
With the exception of Abraham
They're so
Lincoln,
evil.
possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln.
Like I can see the
nobody
blue
has
in
done
Trump's. I
what
can't
I've
see
done.
any color
Criminal
in Biden.
Justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones. With
That's right. He did that when Obama didn't even do it for his own people. 93% of the people of African Americans showed up to vote for Obama to be there for him, to give him that win. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. He shit on that 93%. And now, now Joe is hoping that 93% will come show up for him too, so he can basically use them and then shit on them just like Obama did. Exactly. He said, I don't want my kids growing up in a racial jungle. That's said by Joe Biden. Trump has been making sure that his Mar-a-Lago was open to different races since before any of the other clubs in that area, private clubs in the country were doing it. He was allowing Cubans and Dominicans and African Americans. Everybody else was still doing white only, and he in Mar-a-Lago was not. Look it up.
My response to that is I never ever said what you accused me of saying.
That's right. No, but that's what he thinks. He thinks he's got the black vote.
In the law for a while.
BC says, not this black girl. That's right.
The crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities.
You and Hillary Clinton created the crime bill and the word super predator. You came up with that term for young African American children, didn't you? Yes, you did. And you talked about how the only way to create a safe society was to lock them up and throw away the key for the most simple offenses, so that way they didn't create the worst of offenses, which is why they started throwing away the key for small amounts of crack cocaine. But you could have powder cocaine and not get nearly as much time. Why is that? Because you, being black, you had a better chance of having crack than powder because the white people did the powder at the time.
That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going
Drug
to jail.
courts. Oh yeah, that's a great. I did drug court. Let's talk about drug court sometime.
Not to jail. We should fundamentally change the
Yeah, I
system,
think
and that's
that
where I'm
there's
Why
certain
didn't he
things
do it
that.
4 years ago?
Hang on.
Why didn't you do that 4 years
Right,
ago?
when you had the
Let's-
chance,
why
I don't
did
get
you-
it.
you were vice
When there was a black
you were talking
president.
about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this, but you were there.
When you had Beyonce and Jay-Z in the White House and Common and everybody else that could have helped push this justice reform, and we could have kept how many people out of jail?
You did a good job. I would have never run.
I just don't understand it.
Never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President.
Yep,
Biden, your
people who
response
know
to
Trump,
and then
that
I do have
Nikki,
some questions.
oh, I wish I could say it. That is so true. And if you haven't researched Trump, you don't even know that. And that's how you can tell you're a true Trump supporter, because very few people that don't haven't researched Trump through and through, who don't listen to the bullshit on the news, know about how he used to look people up. He used to send, he has plenty of people who live in his apartments who will tell you, there's a homeless lady that's lived in one of his apartments now for 10 years. She was a lady that used to be homeless out front of Trump Towers. He gave her an apartment in the towers, and she's been there for 10 years. He pays all of her bills. He delivers groceries. She literally lives there in his Trump Towers for free.
I want to stay on the issue of
And that's not the only person that he's done that for. Like, he's done so many things to help people who are struggling. There's another one, the son of his doorman. He helped him start his first business. Like, there's so many stuff. Yep, sends her fresh flowers every day, once a week, and 3 meals a day. Yep, Nikki, yep.
Has all the 5 former heads of the CIA.
I hear you. You're right. Yes, both of them need to say no more private prison. You're dead right about that. There's nothing, not a lie there, girl.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia?
Not a lie there.
That's exactly what.
This
That's
way you go?
exactly what.
This is where
Private prisons are,
is Russia.
unfortunately, both sides are making money off private prisons, guys. And that's something that we as people need to come out and say, that we're too good of a society to continue to fund people being locked up. It's a scam, right? They find all these reasons to keep you in there longer so they can continue to make money off you. Amen. I know. I was part of the system for 10 years.
That kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife.
Here we go.
The first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting "pigs in a blanket," talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police.
Fry 'em like
Pigs in a
bacon.
blanket, fry 'em like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street.
Yes,
That
they
was
were.
my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
But what do you say to Americans who are concerned?
And he truly is, and they will never believe that.
I got criminal justice.
He just won't. He's got too much pride to tell you all the things he's done personally in his own life.
I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything.
I love him. He just talks that way. There's just some things you got to get used to with Trump. That's true.
Racist person. I can't even see the audience.
Head ass, she says.
But I don't care who's in the audience.
Best comb over in the room. Yes, Alice Marie Johnson. She'll tell you all about it. She had another 20 years to do if it wasn't for him.
Here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history.
Oh, here we go.
Pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign.
$20 says he brings up
saying he's getting rid of those
the
Mexican
the
rapists.
thing in the both sides. Find people on both sides. Mark my words.
Made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time
Poor boys? His meth's running out, yo. It's Proud Boys.
This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
She says it's rough for a Mexican.
No. You said not since Abraham.
Aw, no, I'm looking at you. You're here. That's great. He was talking about MS-13. Joe is such a liar. Yes, he is.
Not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
See, Trump keeps it real, though, and he's right. You can laugh all day.
Oh, God.
Tens of thousands
of black men, mostly in jail.
Poor boys, I know, right? Not swearing off.
What's happening with the voting right now?
Let me ask
They
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about
very, very badly. Just take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice
That's
President,
right.
let me give you some context.
Tell him, BC. Push your thumbs up in there. He's saying they remember you treated them badly, and they voting right now.
Small amounts of drugs in their possession. They have
Ah,
sons,
shit.
their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, whose families are still to this day.
He's the Donald, not Abe. That's great.
So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs.
It was,
There
yeah,
mistake.
war on
And
drugs,
trying
and
to
it was
change the sense
dead
and
wrong.
portion on cocaine. That's why I've been
He did
arguing
that.
in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment.
Like your
across
son.
the board.
Why didn't you send your son to
That's what we should be
treatment?
spending money. That's
Why'd you send him to
Trump
Ukraine
wants
around a
to
bunch of
fund it.
corrupt ass politicians who were
Not be
taking
going
him
to
to
jail
strip clubs
for
and
a
smoking
drug
crack with
or an
him?
alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's
Wow.
what I'm going to get done.
I'm not saying that he's wrong about treatment. I'm just saying he's a hypocrite of the highest fucking form.
Laws relating to drugs, but they were not in the crime bill.
But why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians.
It sure is.
Why didn't
Trump
he get
gets
done?
it done.
what
That's
I'm
the
gonna do When I
difference.
become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader.
Are you saying you
for 8
couldn't get it
years.
done?
Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action. Jim.
We got a lot of it done.
You didn't get anything done.
They got 38,000 prisoners left from.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000. In fact, we're the ones who put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process.
Yes, he lists Black America in a bill. Yes.
I just asked one question. Why?
Platinum bill.
did you do
The
it in
platinum
8
bill.
years, a short time ago?
He calls it
Why
the
didn't you
platinum
do it
bill,
just
and then he addresses it as a bill to
You put
a bill for Black America.
young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to get.
Yep, Joe did a eulogy for
Why didn't you
KKK.
get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
Well, some of the section of America believes that. How do I put it?
It's the answer.
Well, you gotta talk.
Feel like that they have certain grievances and certain things that have happened that need to be addressed, and they feel like that concerns them as a race, which is I would say, yeah, Black America. Currently, okay, like back in the 60s, 70s, whenever that whole thing happened with the Japanese internment, okay, I would have said the Japanese Americans because that's who was dealing with it at the time. But Black America, I would say right now they're considered Black America because they're calling them, they want to be considered as called Black America, their problems dealt with as Black America problems because they're problems that are only centered in that have been centered to their community, and they just want to have their stuff addressed personally instead of having to like get whatever left over out of a blanket bill. And I don't blame them. There should be policies that are aimed to improve what has been done. You know what I'm saying? I'm not so for reparations. I don't think that's going to solve anything all these years later. But I like the idea with Trump where he's got the opportunity zones and all these programs to get Black America business, Black Americans owning businesses, Black Americans having bank accounts and stuff, things to improve their life and their future.
The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars.
Sorry.
And we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not.
I was stuttering like Joe through that one, wasn't I?
Millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of
I know what I mean to
companies
say
because of
sometimes. It just doesn't
the
come out
Paris
right.
Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard. And we kicked in right away, it would have destroyed our businesses. So,
Right.
you ready?
We were
have
paying
done
for
an
everybody
incredible
else, and we
job
were the ones that had to
environmentally.
have our
Cleanest
climate
air,
stuff,
cleanest water, and
the
best
levels and all that
emission standards
at
that
the
we've seen
standard
in many years.
years before anybody else
Vice
had to
President
even
Destroyed
start.
our industries.
It's bullshit.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, people worried about jobs, to support my climate
Sorry, I
plan.
stepped away for a
Because
minute.
what it does, it will
I missed the
create
message, sorry.
millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 500,000.
I had to grab a drink.
50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market. in the
How much do you
future.
think that's going to
Anytime
cost us
China is
taxpayers?
doing that,
50,000
we're
charging
positioned where
stations
we're going to see to it
for
that
the amount of
we
electric
take
cars that are
4
actually out there.
existing billion buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way,
Oh, yeah,
the
shovel-ready
whole
jobs,
idea
right,
of
Joe?
what this is all
Shovel-ready.
going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our
If
health
you were alive
and
during
our
the
jobs
Obama
are at
administration,
stake. That's
they
what's
promised us
happening.
the same
And
exact
right
thing.
now, by the way, Wall
But they
Street
call it
President
shovel-ready
Kate
jobs, guys.
My plan,
His plan is
my-
exactly the
my
same.
plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street.
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
Create $1
That's all,
trillion
folks. You
more
kind.
in economic
I kind of
growth
look at it
than
that way.
his
Yeah,
proposal does.
like we
Not on
addressed.
climate,
I
just
don't
on
think we
economy.
addressed the Native American issue 100% correctly by doing the way it's been done at all. I think there's many things that could be improved that as well. A lot of their land was taken unfairly that should be returned to them because we wanted to take it to do energy, to draw gasoline and oil.
AOC plus
Excuse me, but you're very right. Yes, that you're comparing those two things are very much along the same lines of what I meant. Yes.
and they're all hopping through hoops for AOC.
I love how much she asks questions.
Their real plan costs
Right. Well, that's because like some of them you have to understand that Indian reservations, in order to have casinos, they had to sell their sovereignty, meaning they're no longer a sovereign land, meaning that they're actually like U.S. They're actually considered part of the United States. United States laws and taxes apply. United States police are allowed to patrol and arrest and whatever. So they have given up their sovereignty in order to have those casinos. That's why Native Americans get that money. Just so you understand that. There's still many tribes that. Oh shoot, they cut me off. How long was I cut off for? I wonder if I was cut off when I said that.
Okay,
and many other things.
let me have the Vice President respond, and
Huh.
we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions.
Somebody tell me how long I was.
Vice President, I have a number
That's
more
all, folks. Did you hear what I said about the?
With these numbers.
Oh, okay.
Trillion
It said I was
dollars.
reconnecting. That was
Give me a
strange.
break. This
Okay.
plan was, and this is plans endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way,
But guess what? It
fastest growing
requires
industry in America
fuel. It requires natural gas and fuel energy in order to run these to build these green things. We are never going to be without. We are never going to get one done without the other. You want to move to green stuff? Fine, but we have to keep continuing to use our energy to make the money in the factories to build these things.
For the first time. We don't need all of these countries.
Julie.
We needed their energy. We're energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive. Kills all the birds.
Julie the
It's
joke.
very
She says,
intermittent.
if you take your mask
A lot
off,
of
you can
problems,
breathe.
and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the
Fucking Joe
fumes coming
Biden.
up.
He
if
had to
you're a
come out there with
believer
that
in
mask
carbon
on,
emission,
right?
the fumes coming up to make
Right,
these
BC. They
massive
had
windmills
everything. They
is
could
more
have
than
made.
anything that we're talking about
They could
with
have done
natural gas,
so
which is
much for the
critical.
black community for
I mean,
2
solar.
years
I love
straight
solar,
and
but
did
solar doesn't quite
nothing.
have it yet.
All
It's
they
not
cared about was
powerful yet
Obamacare. That was it.
to really run our big,
That was
beautiful
their
factories
chance.
that
You
we
guys
need
gave them
to
the
compete
Senate, the
with the world.
House.
So,
You
solar
gave them
factory.
at all
But you know what we'll do?
three.
We're going to have the greatest
The
economy
entire
in the
government
world.
was
But if
theirs.
you
There
want
was
to kill
no
the
way,
economy,
nothing that they
get
couldn't
rid
do
of your oil industry. You want, and what
for the
about
first
fracking?
2 years.
Let me allow Vice President Biden to
Oh yeah,
respond.
Obama was a big time droner, and Trump did. Trump did in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, but he stopped doing that because he realized he was getting dragged into false
The
wars.
fact of the matter is, he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because
Even though he just said a month and a half or 2 months ago he would totally ban
to
fracking.
transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions
Yep.
from the fracking.
You're so right.
Capture the
They
emissions
make up
from gas.
like they make
We
them
can
act
do
like
that.
do you know every 10 years I'm going on 40, and since I was 15 I'd say about every 10 years this happens. They start to say all this stuff about the climate and start to scare the new generation into believing that they're the generation that's going to be covered in water and have to move all of the coasts inward and like I literally have been through that 3 times now. So I'm starting to wonder why Obama bought a $60 million house on the beach if he's so concerned about climate change.
And then I want to move on to our final section.
Literally on the beach.
People of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants.
I mean, it depends how far he would have gone. You're right. If Obama had went buck wild and just started helping all the black people, and that's it, and addressing only issues of you're right. They definitely would have went after him. But that doesn't mean he couldn't have done some shit while he had the chance. I feel like he could have done jail reform, prison reform.
It's 9 times greater the percentage.
The same people that came to Trump went to Obama, and Obama put it off until after Obamacare. He told them that Obamacare was the only focus of his first term. The same people came to Trump, and Trump listened.
The statistics that you're saying.
Obama was CIA, yeah. He was groomed. He was all he just like Bush was, Bush's daddy. Bush's daddy was CIA. So was Obama, guys. Believe me, there's much to tell about Obama.
We got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back way back. We saved our
Nikki, I did a video the other day about the pallets of cash. Check it out. It's called the CIA whistleblower. That man tells he literally was part of that exchange. He explains what the pallets were for. He explains what the money really was about. That they were blackmailing Obama. They were going to tell on Obama about the real story of how Osama bin Laden. How the Osama bin Laden raid went down and how he was part of killing SEAL Team 6. And a whistleblower who was involved in that came out, and I did a video on it. So check that out. That's crazy that you brought that up.
That's why so many people in my state were dying.
All right, yeah, man. Like that's still going on in the background. It's funny how the Hunter hard drive came out right after that and kind of quieted that out. But it's still out there, and I think it's going to be something that gets louder over the next couple of months.
Okay, I have one final question.
Would you close down the oil industry? Would you close down the oil
By the way,
industry?
I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement because I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
And here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving them federal subsidies.
Yes.
You won't give federal subsidies to the gas. Excuse me, to solar. And
You're
wind.
very right about the
Why
private
would you
prison
give it to the oil
stuff.
industry?
We actually do
All right.
to solar and wind.
We have
That's
one
maybe
final
the biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember?
They
that
almost
Texas?
muted him. Did you see
Remember
that?
Pennsylvania, Oklahoma.
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look.
How's that out of
we have to
context?
move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he
final
gonna get
question
China
to
to
vote.
do it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question.
Yeah, China, the biggest emitter of of emissions.
By what they agreed to.
All right, this is about leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time.
Come on, Big Daddy, give it to
I will
him.
tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call.
That's
me.
right, because we were
They
doing the
wanted to get
best we've
together.
ever
We had
done.
the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country.
That's right.
Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers.
Yeah,
and you
I
know
can't
what?
help it.
The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success, but I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's
right.
taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will
Taxes,
kill it.
bring 'em up.
If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Yes, we
Your
will.
401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right.
It sure will.
Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who
Watch,
did
he is nothing
I would
but
say, I'm an American
nothing but
president.
talk. Watch.
I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward.
He's just
because we have
he's
enormous
repeating the things he said 100
enormous
times.
opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism.
You know
At
it,
the same
Julie.
time, we can make sure that our economy is being run.
Yeah,
and moved and
it's so
motivated
right
by
about that Trump
clean
thing.
energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor.
Decency and honor. Your son just got caught with child porn. Who are you?
Everyone has an even chance.
You have been accused of putting your fingers in your secretary's pussy without her permission and saying, "Come on, man, I thought you liked me." And unfortunately, it's not all over our news because they're too busy hating on Trump. I'm sorry. I just can't stand when he talks about decency.
Thank you to those.
Oh my God. Hope, exactly. Here we go with the hope again. Hope, hope. He gave me, exactly.
Great night.
Oh.
And we have been watching and listening to a little over 90 minutes now of the second and final presidential debate between
Give me
President
a
Trump
minute,
and the
guys.
President of the United States, Joe Biden. Now, I would say a very different debate from the first one we saw, much more
Trump
structured,
did really
much
good,
more,
you
dare I
guys.
say, polite.
He didn't
I think
interrupt.
even more
He brought it up,
substantive,
but he didn't go
covered
crazy.
wide
He did a good job, yo.
Things like national security, who would stand up most effectively to Mr. Putin, healthcare, what to do about the Affordable Care Act, and pre-existing conditions. The need for stimulus was very specifically addressed, what to do, what that means about jobs. A lot of talk about climate change, with the former vice president making the statement that he is in favor of phasing out the oil and gas industry, which will get a lot of attention, no doubt. On the other hand, we also have
Right,
President
exactly.
Trump
Oh my
making
God.
that the Republicans will take the House of Representatives, which I'm not sure many people had expected. But we started out actually with
Right, because Obama was very decisive. He almost like he every time there was a situation, he would automatically go against the police and with the with the victim without even knowing the whole story, and it caused like a big huge divide in our country. I'm telling you.
We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like
They're just kind of like going over stuff now. They're going to point it all out. But I do want to talk about Fauci in a minute, so hang on, let me just go grab another drink.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not guaranteed, but it will be by the end of the year.
Anyone who's responsible for not taking control.
Linda.
In fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America.
If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost
Gang,
town.
gang.
It's a ghost
There
town.
she is.
When you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that.
All right, I'm gonna go grab a drink and
We're
shit, and we'll
gonna
talk.
walk
Just
and
hang
chew gum
on.
at the same
Do your
time.
thing. Everybody take a
We ought to
break.
be able to safely open.
We'll take like a
when
half
they
hour
need
and we'll chit
resources
chat. I
to
want to
help.
show you some things on Fauci that's gonna blow your mind. Well, most of you are pretty woke, so it probably won't blow most of your minds, but it'll be some good shit. Hang on, get 5 minutes. Everybody take a quick break. I'll leave it live. Do your thing. Grab a drink. Use the bathroom. Whatever. I'll be back in
Yeah,
another 5
this was
minutes.
a different debate. I wonder, what did they do with Donald Trump and Joe Biden? The two men who were on the stage were civil to one another. They obeyed the rules. There was no use of the switch that was going to cut off someone's microphone that we talked so much about earlier. I actually thought it was a substantive debate. I think the fact checkers will have a field day with this one, but regardless, I thought it was what we would expect more of these two candidates.
Well, Gene, I'm so glad Rick raised the question of fact checkers, because there were a lot of factual assertions made out there, particularly, I would say, at least by President Trump, particularly concerning the former vice president and his son and his family. A lot of numbers thrown around about money they've taken. I'm at least not aware that those have been established factually.
No, and I don't think they have, and I think we're going to be hearing in the next few hours into tomorrow what people are finding in terms of the veracity, and the fact checkers are already out looking at some of that. I do think that President Trump had a much more effective, obviously, debate than he did the first time, and I thought what was particularly effective for him was his argument against Joe Biden about the fact, you were there for 8 years, why didn't you do all these things then? And that's effective because that is something that can get undecided voters, the few that there are, out on President Trump's side. And I thought for Joe Biden, the most effective thing was he kept coming to the back to the idea that character is on the ballot. This is a election about character.
Oh
so
God,
I thought from that perspective,
how do you
they
have
both had
character
really
when you
good
and your son
arguments
have
to
both
make
been
that could
accused of
potentially
horrendous
these
sexual
undecided
crimes?
voters.
Rick, I do want to come back to COVID-19 for
Sorry.
a second. Maybe this is just my impression. We had two men who I think basically agreed we need to reopen our economy. We
I
need to
hate
do it
when I hear
safely.
that.
They had different views about how to do that, but it wasn't clear to me that either of them really had a specific plan about how we get from here to there. President Trump, for example, said New York is a ghost town right now. We can't keep this up.
Yeah, I
wants to
actually
open it
think
up
that
this
there was, similar to the first debate, a sort of melding of the future plan, right? I mean, Donald Trump didn't argue with Joe Biden and said, when Joe Biden articulated what he would do as president, if anything,
There was
I
no
think Donald Trump
articulation
said,
there.
yeah,
He
I
didn't
should get credit
articulate
for that. That's
anything.
what we're doing. Now,
God
effectiveness
help us all.
matters. And so Joe
Our
Biden
news
points
media
out
is so full
that
of
with
shit.
1,000 deaths a day and 70,000 new cases each day, whatever you're doing, you're not being effective doing it. And so I think he solidifies his position as the outsider on the COVID issue. But Donald Trump, as Jeannie said, spent a lot of time in this debate protecting his outsider status.
Yeah, very interesting. Jeannie, it also struck me, President Trump came to office originally 4 years ago saying, I'm a pro-growth, economic growth president. I'm going to bring jobs into that.
He did.
There wasn't that much talk, actually, about how we're going to get the economy growing again.
No, there wasn't. He wasn't specific in terms of what he plans to
Open
do.
the country.
He just, in my mind, kept pushing this outsider status. This idea that
God,
Joe
help us.
Biden is a politician. He's been there 47 years, 8 years as vice president. He hasn't done anything. I, on the other hand, am a businessman, but to your point, he didn't give a lot of details in terms of how do we get us out of where we are today? How do we get us back to this economy he keeps touting from before the pandemic hit? So there's a lot of unanswered questions there, but of course, this is a debate about making sort of this case to undecided voters. And I think from a certain perspective, we may see the president turn a corner here with some of these undecided voters who feel like this is the more disciplined Donald Trump we've wanted to see. And the question, I think, is going to be, do they forget about the Donald Trump from the first debate?
Here we go. I'm shutting this lady down. She can shut up for a minute. Sorry, I should have coughed before I came back in the room. Everybody we still here. Good. All right, hang on a second. This is what I'm gonna do. I don't know the easiest way to do it. I got one of these remotes I can talk to. Watch. Jamie Deluxe. You really need to come watch the whole history on it, but at the same time, for now, I'm just going to show you guys this. Hang on. Where is it? It's back further. It might have been the one in the front, but I just want to be sure first. Here we go. I think this is the older one, but so that's not it. All right, hang on. It's up here then. I think. It might be this one. If not, it'll be the other one. Hold on. Heads up to Jamie Deluxe. I'm just checking this out.
Warning.
Showing my people.
I chain smoke and I say when I accept myself the way I am, I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
Go check out his channel, you guys. Subscribe. Jamie is the bomb. And he's one of the ones that have survived so far, and he's really scared he's gonna get shut down. So go subscribe to Jamie.
Radicals. T60 can slow down aging
Sorry, hang
and
on.
reduce cell damage. It can also improve prescription. Nutty.
Oh, my cat wants
So I saw
it.
this really awkward interview between Fauci and Jennifer Gardner, and I had to share it. The whole interview is about 38 minutes. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page.
I just wanted to start by just saying thank you for never lying to us. Thank you for always giving it to us straight. I know that you have saved, countless lives in your leadership and your honesty, and we are really sincerely grateful.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Thank you for never lying to us. I thought that was a really weird way to start the interview, especially since he's already lied to us about the mask issue. He either lied to us before or he's lying to us now. We could speculate for whatever reason, but I'm just saying.
But what is the latest? We were all wiping down groceries. Are we
Yeah.
still wiping down groceries?
Okay, so that's a
Hold
great
on,
question.
I had to get my cat.
And I want to get back to masks.
You want a
in
drink?
second. It's a really good question. And the reason is that we used to think that because the virus was detectable on inanimate objects, which we call fomites, that there may be a considerable degree of transmissibility.
There you go,
We're
Mom.
finding out that that's not the case. It isn't that there's zero transmissibility with a tennis ball or a racket, but
Hang on.
the overwhelming evidence is that it's much more person to person. Now,
play with it
Oh,
and
hold
wear
on.
it to
And the consequences, people keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
people do not use their masks correctly. They play with it. They wear it too long. They rub their nose underneath it.
You hear that, folks? You can get
Not
worse
a
by
very
wearing a
big
mask
reason.
when you're at a greater risk, because what do you do all day? You're doing exactly
Yeah, I
what
will.
you're not, you're touching your
Shit.
face all day and getting sick.
Prolonged mask wearing
Let me see,
actually
hang on.
increases the risk of disease to the wearer. People tend to touch their faces
I don't know if I can do
when
it.
they're wearing a mask.
I'll put it in the
So
description.
helpful to know, because I think we are all wondering. when
I'll
you're
show it to you before. I can't do it from my
it's a
phone right now
beautiful
because
day
I'm
and you
using a
don't see
different
anyone,
thing. Hold
you
on.
know, that you're coming in contact with. Can you just breathe for a minute?
Two
Well, what I
seconds.
do,
Should show it right there. It's, you see his name? It's Jamie, and then it's it's capital DLUX. Like I would rather you just, because I don't know how to do it this way. I can do it if I'm on the computer. I just can't do it from my phone. I don't know why YouTube won't let me drop links. Maybe this is why I need somebody that who knows who she is to step up and deal with all of this background stuff for me. But hang on, I want to get to the point here because it's about Fauci's history, and I don't think this is the right video. It's not. Hold up.
in fact,
You should watch that one anyway, but is it the PCR one? No, it's got to be this one. Here we go. This is it. Yep, this is it. Jamie Deluxe. Hang on, buddy. You really gonna do this to me while I'm doing a live stream?
And I say fuck that. When I accept myself the way I am, I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
There are three people I place in what Frank Ruschetti calls the unholy trinity.
This
of
is it, you
science.
guys.
And
All
they
right,
are
Felicia,
Harold
good. All right, good.
Varmus,
Good, good,
Francis
good.
Collins, and Tony Fauci.
Check out all his videos.
Whenever you ask yourself
You'll find
why
yourself
the truth hasn't
binging.
been told in a critical area of public health, you'll probably find the fingerprints of these men at the crime scene.
Listen close. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
oil
Hang
is a
on.
powerful
Because this is really important, you guys. You're going to find out stuff you never knew before. Like, wow, Fauci's involved in all that.
some who see it and some who don't. And honestly, I can't comprehend how people don't see it. It makes no sense to me. It's plain as day. But then again, propaganda is a hell of a drug, and it's really powerful. Have you ever heard of the term a big lie? A big lie is a propaganda technique. The expression was coined by Adolf Hitler when he dictated his 1925 book, Mein Kampf, about the use of a lie so, quote, colossal that no one would believe that someone, quote, could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. All this was inspired by the principle, which is quite true within itself, that in the big lie, there's always a certain force of credibility, because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily. And thus, in the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more readily fall victims to the big lie than the small lie, since they themselves often tell small lies in little matters, but would be ashamed to resort to large-scale falsehoods. It would never come into their heads to fabricate colossal untruths, and they would not believe that others could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. Even though the facts, which prove this to be so, may be brought clearly to their minds, they will still doubt and waver and will continue to think that there may be some other explanation. For the grossly impudent lie always leaves traces behind it, even after it has been nailed down, a fact which is known to all except liars in this world, and to all who conspire together in the art of lying. Goebbels' use of the expression, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually
Joseph
come to
Goebbels was
believe it.
also another,
The
he was
lie
like
can be
part of
maintained
Hitler's crew.
only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and or military consequences of
I promise
the
it gets
lie.
better than this.
It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent, for the truth is a mortal enemy of the lie. And thus, by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state.
It's
Doing
Jamie the
that
Lux.
helped make a little sense for me. People can be presented with facts and just dismiss it. So what's happened is a worldwide big lie, or a virus. And Bill Gates isn't a stranger to using Nazi terminology.
Little by little, the Nazis were reaching what they called the final solution, the total extermination of the Jews of Europe.
And then the final solution, which is a year to 2 years off, is the vaccines.
Well, anyway, the main purpose of this video was that Dr. Rainer Fulmick, the lawyer from Germany/California, put out a little update video on October 15, 2020. I'll leave a link, but I wanted to share just a few things from it.
There is a new, very positive development in this corona scandal, which I would like to share with you. The notorious Wuhan virus has not been isolated by anyone in a scientifically correct manner. Nowhere has the virus been isolated according to Koch's postulates. Even the CDC reported in a document dated July 13th, 2020 on page 39 that, and I quote, no quantified virus isolates of the 2019 nCoV are currently available. Quantified means measured. This means that no measurable amount of the virus is available.
Do you see that?
So what is being treated out there if it isn't SARS-CoV-2? Is it the flu with a little more corona than usual? Is the flu being treated with a lockdown, a mask requirement, and quarantine?
Sounds
Even
like
the WHO
it.
seems to be having second thoughts now. Dr. David Nabarro from the WHO appealed to world leaders, telling them last week to stop, and I quote, using lockdowns as your primary control method.
I want to say it again. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as a primary means of control of this virus. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted. But by and large, we'd rather not do it. Just look at what's happened to the tourism industry, for example, in the Caribbean or in the Pacific, because people aren't taking their holidays. Look what's happened to smallholder farmers all over the world because their markets have got dented. Look what's happening to poverty levels. It seems that we may well have a doubling of world poverty by next year. We may well have at least a doubling of child malnutrition because children are not getting
I don't
meals
because
at
I have
school and their
Crohn's.
parents in poor families are not able to afford it. This is a
But I normally get the flu every other year anyway because of
catastrophe,
that.
actually. And so we really do appeal to all world leaders. Stop
But my
using
body
lockdown as your primary
fights it
control
off
method.
and builds
Develop
its
better
own
systems for
antibodies
doing
to it.
Work together and learn from each other.
I just
remember.
But I also
just have one
encourage
consequence you must
people
never,
who
belittle, and that
work
is
in the health
making
field
poor
to get the
people
flu
an
shot
awful lot
because you're going to be
His
exposed to
message
it.
is timely. In a world first,
The
a
flu
number
shot's
of
not
health
live
experts
anymore,
from
so
all over the world came together calling
I
for
don't
an
find it
end
nearly
to
as dangerous.
coronavirus lockdowns earlier last week. They created a petition called the Great Barrington Declaration, which said that
I
lockdowns
have
were
to look
doing
that up.
irreparable damage.
Right,
As
hold on.
infectious disease epidemiologists and public health
Hang on a second. I gotta keep
I
fast
know you know
forwarding.
about the purge by now, and
All right, so those are all the ones that those are some channels right there, guys, that are already gone over this whole COVID thing.
all these
They erased them. But hang on, I wanted to show you something else. This is it. Oh my God, I went to the wrong one before. Here we go. This is the guy who's a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
links. We talk about Carrie Mullis,
Here we go.
Nobel Prize winner that
You work in
invented
medical
the
billing?
PCR,
Yeah,
which
no,
is what
I
we
think
use
you're all right,
for
hon.
COVID tests
I
today.
wouldn't suggest you have to, but I was an RN.
And with PCR,
Watch,
if
guys,
you do
watch.
it well, you can find almost anything.
Hang on, let me
in
pause this.
anybody.
Guys, this guy is Carrie Mullis. He created the test that is now being used to detect COVID-19. I bet you can't guess what happened to him. He died in August, 4 months before COVID-19 came out. Kind of convenient, don't you think? You need to hear some of the stuff that was left behind from right out of his own mouth. Please don't go anywhere. This was the video I was looking for. So sorry. Hang on.
It's making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of.
Watch what he proved about the HIV/AIDS virus. Watch.
To claim that it's meaningful. To test for that one and say that has any special meaning is what I think is the problem. Not that PCR has been misused. It allows you to take a very minuscule amount of anything and make it measurable and then talk about it in meetings and stuff like it is.
A very small amount of corona, like the flu, can and blow up the measurement.
Passed away August of 2019, not long before this outbreak. So I don't know if you heard about the whole HIV debate that was going on back in the 80s, 90s.
California microbiologist Dr. Carrie Mullis was awarded
This is
the
it,
Nobel
guys.
Prize in 1993 for his development of one of the most widely used current techniques in
Here he is getting the
microbiology
Nobel
today,
Prize.
the PCR, or polymerase chain reaction.
Dr. Carrie Mullis, who invented the polymerase chain reaction, gives this in '83, I believe, and he got the Nobel Prize in 1993, gives this little story that he was hired to do PCR for an HIV project for a private company. And he wrote as the first sentence of his paper, HIV is the probable cause of AIDS. And he said he turned to a virologist and said, what's the reference for that? And the virologist said, you don't need it. Well, Mullis is smart enough to know, of course, something new as this, you would always have a series of original papers that established unequivocally that this was the cause.
Here we
the
go.
First time I really questioned it, I was working on a project where we were measuring HIV in people's blood at this place called Specialty Laboratories in Santa Monica. I was just a consultant there. I came in about 3 days a month, and we were working on that. And at some point, we needed to up our grant from the NIH to work on that, and I had to write it. And so the first line of that was HIV is the probable cause of AIDS. And I wrote that, and then I said, well, I need a paper, some kind of scientific paper, to reference that statement. Because when you make a scientific statement like that, that's like a fact. So you need to say, here's how come I know that, right? You put a little one if it's the first statement you've made, and then you put down at the bottom of the paper, you have a one, and you say, here's a paper by somebody that describes why that statement is true, right? And so I said, well, what's that? I don't know. Let me think about, what is that paper? Who do I go to for that? And I looked around, I asked a couple of virologists at that company, and they said, no, you don't have to reference. I said, I have to reference that because I don't know where that came from. How do I know that? And it turned out that nobody knew it. Then, and only then, I started looking into it. I looked up a bunch of papers in science that Bob Gallo, I knew about him and had written. I figured, well, Gallo must have been the one to figure it out because he's the name I've heard associated with it. I looked at his papers and I didn't find anything in there.
He discovered HIV, Bob Gallo did.
There was a fact
supposedly,
now in science called HIV is the cause of AIDS, or even the probable cause of AIDS, which is all I would have expected, the probable cause of AIDS. Highly probable, because they were attacking the whole problem by...
This is going to blow your mind when this is done, guys.
So I'd expect it to be highly probable, but I couldn't find anything that said it was remotely probable even. There is no reference. There is nobody who should get credit for that statement. Now that's a pretty weird situation.
Fauci's first fraud.
For a discovery is the most important thing in your life. And so I asked all these people one after the other, and none of them had it. None of them. And I was getting really freaked about that. That's when I first started saying, they don't know. Nobody really knows. This whole thing is a big sham. It's ridiculous. How much money did we make off of HIV this year? And they could have plotted that, and it would have looked the same. You know, and they could have said it's an epidemic because we're making more and more money. That made it a plague, and the CDC needed one. The CDC hadn't had a good plague since polio. Their funding was probably going to be cut back if they didn't come up with one. The guy that was the head of the CDC, in fact, wrote memos that have been obtained. You know, that
hot stuff, it says.
You know, those guys have got an agenda.
Guess who it was, guys? Fauci.
What we would like them to have.
Fauci made up AIDS being caused by HIV, but guess what it was caused by?
They are considered the final arbiters.
Guess what AIDS was? Wait, just think in your head, what could possibly have caused people to go from regular HIV status to full-blown AIDS and dying? What could cause that?
Word of God, they bring the word of the...
Well, he's going to let you know in just a minute.
I was right at the edge of my faith in the system, but I thought,
share this video, you guys. Go thumbs up this video, subscribe to Jamie.
Because of this study, you know, but he didn't have that. None of those guys have that, and that's why they're so weird, you know. That's why they don't want to say. They don't want people like me walking up.
Sure did.
And asking them those kind
sure
of
did.
And they're willing.
BC, you are. Oh, I love. We gotta talk. We gotta talk.
They're out on a limb. I wouldn't want to be there with them.
Very few people know those details like that.
We're never going to have.
The only people who really care about what's going on.
Kind of scientists, they put it in Nature. Because he came in there and had the audacity to tell people that it might not be that bad to have sex. That AIDS might not be something you get from sex. That I don't see any evidence for it.
Thank you, Nikki.
I don't see any evidence for it. What? You can't tell young people that.
This is from Spin.
And now he's
July
dead.
1994.
Months before Corona, COVID-19 happens.
When ABC's Nightline approached Mullis about participating in a documentary on himself, he instead urged them to focus their attention on the HIV debate.
Quote,
that's a much more important story, he told the producers, who up to that point had never acknowledged the controversy. In the end, Nightline ran a two-part series, the first part on Gary Mullis, the second on the HIV debate. Mullis was hired by ABC for a 2-week period to act as their scientific consultant and direct them to sources. The show was superb and represented a historic turning point, possibly even the end of the 7-year media blackout on the HIV debate. But it still didn't fulfill Mullis's ultimate fantasy. Quote, what ABC needs to do is talk to Chairman of the NIAID, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and Dr. Robert Gallo, one of the discoverers of HIV, and show that they're assholes, which I can do in 10 minutes. You wouldn't even need 10 minutes, but the interviewer points out that Gallo will refuse to discuss the HIV debate, just as he's always done. I know he will, Mullis shoots back, anger rising in his voice, but you know what? I would be willing to chase a little bastard from his car to his office and say, "This is Kerry Mullis, trying to ask you a goddamn simple question," and let the cameras follow. If people think I'm a crazy person, that's okay. But here's a Nobel Prize winner trying to ask a simple question from those who spent $22 billion and killed 100,000 people. It has to be on TV. It's a visual thing. I'm not unwilling to do something like that. Referring to the guardians of the HIV establishment, such as Gallo and Fauci, Mullis suddenly turns from rage to pity. I feel sorry for him, he admits. I want to have the story unveiled, but you know what? I'm just not the kick him in the balls kind of guy. I'm a moral person, but I'm not a crusader. I think it's a terrible tragedy that it's happened. There are some terrible motivations of humans involved in this, and Gallo and Fauci have got to be some of the worst.
AZT is an
Here it is, you
antiretroviral
guys.
drug that became the first drug approved for the treatment of AIDS and HIV infection in 1987. It was originally intended to treat cancer, but it failed to show efficacy and had unacceptably high side effect profiles. However, the unavailability at that time for alternatives to treat AIDS affected the risk-benefit ratio greatly.
The antiviral drugs are chemotherapies. They're all based on chemotherapies that have been developed 30 years ago, long before AIDS was known, to kill human cells. Chemotherapy is restricted to a few months and hope the cancer dies before you die.
Fauci,
Any other
right there doing it all.
for the rest of your life, it would be that agent probably that killed you. You know, when you give chemotherapy to somebody with cancer, you give them a round of it for maybe 14 days or a few days. Hopefully, you're not going to kill the patient. You're going to kill the cancer. The patient's going to survive.
Pay attention.
You don't keep giving it to him until he dies, because he certainly will.
It's been October 5th, 2015, AIDS and the AZT scandal. Spin's 1989 feature, Sins of Omission, the story of AZT, one of the most toxic, expensive, and controversial drugs in the history of medicine. If AIDS were not the popular disease that it is, the money-making, career-making machine, these people could not get away with this kind of shoddy science, says Dr. Harvey Biley. In all my years in science, I have never seen anything this atrocious.
Yes.
When asked if he thought it was at all possible that people had been killed as a result of AZT poisoning rather than AIDS, he answered, "It's more than possible." August 17.
They're saying people weren't dying of nothing called AIDS. It was the AZT killing them.
1.4 million healthy HIV antibody positive
The chemotherapy drugs were killing them.
benefit from taking AZT, even though they show no symptoms of disease.
He tried to make
1.4
1.4 million healthy HIV positive people
is effective
take
in stopping
AZT.
the progression of AIDS in asymptomatic and early ARC cases. Dr. Fauci, the head of NIH, proudly
Fauci
announced that a trial has been going on for, quote, 2 years.
Exactly,
and, quote,
BC.
clearly shown that early intervention
Exactly.
will keep AIDS at bay. Anyone who has antibodies to HIV and less than 500
That's why
T4
COVID
cells
has
can start taking
HIV.
AZT at once.
It
he
has
said.
cells from the
That
HIV
is
virus in
approximately
it.
650,000 people.
Look it up.
1.4
Google it.
million
An
Americans are
Indian
assumed
doctor found
antibody
HIV
positive. And
cells
eventually
inside
all
the
of them may need to
COVID-19
take
virus
AZT, so they don't get
because it was
sick,
man-made.
Fauci contended. The leading newspapers didn't seem to think it unusual that there was no existing copy of the study, but rather a breezy 2-page press release from the NIH. When Spin called the NIH asking for a copy of the study, we were told that it was, quote, still being written. We asked a few questions about the numbers. So they go into the specifics here. I'm not going to because that's pretty confusing. So they did this study for 2 years. However, the figures are vastly misleading. When we asked how many patients were actually enrolled for a full 2 years, the NIH said they did not know, but the average time of the participant was 1 year, not 2. Quote, "It's terribly dishonest the way they portrayed those numbers," says Dr. Sonnabend. Quote, "If there were 60 people in the trial, those numbers would mean something. But if you calculate what the percentage is out of 3,200, the difference becomes minute. between the two groups. It's nothing. It's hit or miss, and they make it look like it's terribly significant. The study boasted that AZT is much more effective and less toxic at 1/3 the dosage than has been used for 3 years now. That's the good news. The bad news is that thousands have already been walloped with 1,500 milligrams of AZT and possibly even died of toxic poisoning. And now we're hearing that 1/3 of the dose would have done. With all that remains so uncertain about the effects of AZT,
Wow.
it seems criminal to advocate expanding its usage to healthy people, particularly since only a minuscule percentage of the HIV-infected population have actually developed ARC or AIDS. Boros Wellcome has already launched testing of AZT in asymptomatic hospital workers, pregnant women, and in children who are getting liquid AZT.
Oh my God.
The liquid is left over from an aborted trial and given to the children because they can mix it with water. Children don't like to swallow pills. It has also been proposed that AZT be given to people who do not yet test positive for HIV antibodies but are, quote, at risk. Quote, I'm convinced that if you gave AZT to a perfectly healthy athlete, says Fedorko, he would be dead in 5 years.
See?
Quote, this is such shoddy science.
That was AIDS, like literally. It was the
Flash forward, August
AZT.
17, 1989. Newspapers across America banner headline that AZT had been, quote, proven to be effective.
They were giving them something they knew was going to kill them. And they got to call it AIDS and make $22 billion off of
Main
it.
concerns was that the drug should only be used in last case scenario
Fauci
for
did.
critically ill AIDS patients due to the drug's extreme toxicity. Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the NIH, was now pushing to expand prescription. The FDA's traditional concern had been thrown to the wind. Already, the drug had spread to 60 countries and an estimated 20,000 people. The beneficial effects of the drug had proven to be temporary. The toxicity, however, stayed the same. So what does this mean? If it's true, it means that HIV is not the cause of AIDS, which a lot of scientists and doctors have said, but I guess it was a lot easier to censor back then. Then it was the drugs and not the disease killing people. And who was pushing the drugs? One of the same guys pushing COVID today.
There are all sorts of associations, organizations that hold themselves out as being able to think for you. We are the trade group for this. We are the government regulatory body. We are the professional regulatory body.
That's what I
But
think
how
they
does the
see.
individual have
I think this
the
is
courage
this
look at
way
that
back in the
accepted dogma
80s and
and say, you
90s
know
they
what?
did
I'm not
HIV and
buying it.
AIDS, and I believe that
Just
Corona
trust
is like they're just
your fellow
redoing it.
man.
You know, the
Say that's an
Democrats
important
always
thing.
redo.
Yeah,
They
they
do the
tend to
same
think
thing
it's about
over
who
and
you are.
over and over. They use the
It's
same
like any
playbook.
political
I'm not
scam.
either.
Follow
I'm not
the
either.
money trail. Figure out who's getting paid
I'm not
for it.
unless I know for sure that Trump has done everything to make sure that it's safe. The problem is that Fauci's actually not involved in this vaccine. That's why Fauci's talking about Trump, because he's not involved in this vaccine. Trump went around him and did the Warp Speed project. Hold on. That's just the PCR test. Okay. So anyway, I want to show you one more thing before I go. I don't keep you guys all night. I got a couple videos I'm going to put up tomorrow, but there's one more thing I want to show you. I watched it earlier. If you weren't here, you saw the one in the beginning about the guy that came out against to say he worked with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and made all that money. Yeah. Where is it? I must have watched it way earlier. Oh, no. Come on. Boy, you don't realize how long ago you watched something until you got to go all the way through your shit to get to it. Oh, here we go. Getting back to that page here. You gotta be kidding me. Sorry. I should have just had it all set up. I bet you it's in my playlist. Oh. It's in it.
Why do
I'm pretty sure this is it. Aw, I definitely remember feeling like that. Why can't we just all live?
About the Hunter Biden story.
This is Mr. Reagan, you guys. It's pretty cool too.
First, of course,
Go subscribe.
I have to sell you something. Now,
Anyway, let me get past this part. I just want you to see this really quick because he explains everything in real good, like he breaks things down fast.
had disturbing material on it. Material
Oh,
that he
too far. Hold on.
last year. The repairman, John Paul.
Oh, I still went too far.
Greens, if you're trying to stay healthy, this stuff is excellent. Okay,
Here you go.
Hunter Biden's laptop was dropped off at a computer repair shop in April last year. The repairman, John Paul Mac Isaac, discovered the laptop had disturbing material on it, material that he was afraid would threaten his life.
Well, he held on to four. He held on to forged copies of it. He gave 2 to friends of his in case he was killed. And he was. Don't laugh. People.
Serious, yeah.
The presidency is at stake here, and we have some very dangerous people involved.
The repairman made 3 copies of everything and then gave the laptop to the FBI. After the FBI failed to investigate, the repairman gave all the data to Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani then gave it to the New York Post, who broke the story earlier this week. Adam Schiff has tried to claim that this is all Russian disinformation.
We know that this whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin.
This is not true. This is an attempt to suggest the material on the laptop is inauthentic. But this is false.
I did a video on it yesterday, honey.
Giuliani had lawyers and experts verify that it was all legitimate.
I'm going to show it right now as soon as this is over.
Lengthy process, and since the story broke, Fox News has independently verified the information. The data is 100% authentic, and not even Joe Biden, Hunter, nor the Biden campaign have refuted its authenticity. And if that's not enough for you, there's also a repair order signed by Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden's lawyer contacted the repairman requesting the laptop back, essentially acknowledging that the laptop did belong to Hunter Biden.
With me right now is the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe. Is this Russian disinformation, Director?
Adam Schiff saying that this is part of some Russian disinformation campaign and that the IC has assessed that or believes that is simply not true. Hunter Biden's laptop is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign, and I think it's clear that the American people know that.
On this laptop are thousands of emails, photographs, and video that could prove Joe Biden has engaged in corruption and that he is compromised and controlled by foreign governments. One scandal regards Joe Biden's dealings in China. Chinese companies are often controlled by or beholden to Chinese officials in the communist Chinese government. Now, it's illegal for an American politician to engage in business deals with foreign governments. It's a violation of the International Anti-Bribery Act of 1998. But the
He was that high, absolutely.
have no such constraints. So what it looks like is that Joe Biden has used his son Hunter as a sort of proxy. You want to do business with Joe Biden? Just hire his son Hunter. It appears that the Biden family has made millions from deals with Chinese businesses connected to the Chinese government because the Chinese government wanted direct access to Joe Biden so they could manipulate American foreign policy. Joe Biden says he's never
Joe Biden says he's not going to have any problem dealing with China.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
But in one email, we see that a 10% payout for a particular deal was set aside specifically for the big guy. And Giuliani says he can prove that the big guy is Joe Biden. The second major scandal is the Ukraine scandal. Everybody knows about Joe Biden's firing of Viktor Shokin. But what's worse is that at the time Hunter was working for Burisma, Joe was negotiating international aid money to go to Ukraine, and much of that money would go to Burisma. It looks like Biden was authorizing
You
money
know
to
it,
Ukraine
Nikki.
to
You
Burisma
know
and
it.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Joe also claims to know nothing
He's
about
like, you dumb motherfucker. Why can't you be like your brother?
Biden held meetings with these Ukrainians set up by his son.
Check
in
this
one
out.
text message, Hunter claims that he gives 50% of his income to his father.
He bitches
This
about
is
his,
a clear
his money,
violation
giving
of
his
the
money to his dad.
bribery.
He fucked up so bad.
That he asked the president of Ukraine about Joe
You know where
Biden's
he was when his laptop was sitting there in rehab.
Joe Biden would also exonerate Donald Trump. On top of
He
these
got
scandals,
sober and
looking
forgot all about that
it
shit.
looks like there are images and videos of Hunter engaged in inappropriate, perhaps sexual behavior with underage
Russian
girls.
meth.
This is supported by numerous pictures of underage girls. Yesterday, Bernie Carrick and I turned it over to the Delaware State because we're very uncomfortable with this. And we're very uncomfortable with the fact that these underage girls were not protected.
It looks like Hunter is going to jail. Consider what the press would be saying if this were Donald Trump's son. They would be covering this story nonstop. And yet,
Nope,
this story
you're
has
right,
been
BC.
ignored or
He
attacked by almost
absolutely did
everyone in
not.
the mainstream media. And Twitter locked the account of press secretary Kayleigh McEnany for posting
He did
the
lie
story.
about all the
Say that
foreign
Hunter's
money,
father
though. He
has nothing to do with
perjured
Joe
himself
Biden, but
right
actually
there.
It does. According to Giuliani, the Chinese government has even more
And
stimulus efforts that they could use
he's
in
being
future
investigated
to blackmail
since
Joe
December of
Biden. This would
2019. It's
compromise
all
Joe
coming
Biden, and
out.
he would no longer be eligible to function as the president of the United States of America. And that's the Hunter Biden story in 5 minutes. Before you go, I realized the other day that I had never subscribed to a bunch of my favorite YouTube channels. YouTube just recommends their videos often enough that I never think
No, he's
about
going
it.
to
So it took a
jail.
second,
He's
and I
yeah. No,
subscribed
they
to all the
turned in the
channels that I
laptop
love because I
yesterday.
know it
He's
helps
going
them
to
out
jail.
a ton. So if you've never subscribed, but
Mark
you
my
watch me
words, he
sometimes,
has
please
to.
do subscribe and hit that bell if you want to receive notifications.
This is the time of Me Too and all that bullshit. You know that he's gonna have that. He's got to go to jail. The FBI's top here for child porn is literally picked up the laptop and signed for it, and he signed for it a year ago. When I tell you these emails were for sale in Russia for 50 million a year ago, they were literally for sale. Russia had already got its hands on his dumbass because his partners were both in prison. His partners are both in federal prison. One of them has already flipped and signed his Gmail account over to a very prominent journalist who is now going through another 28,000 emails today as we speak. So the other there's the 50 Cent one. We all know that. What is it? No, I know it was a Crowder one for sure. Mm. Biden's in Ukraine. No, that's not it. Come on. Sorry, guys. 2 seconds here. It's only got to be between here and the top. Oh, here. This is the one I wanted you to see. Boom. This is in New York City today. Check this out. Restaurant owner. It's so fucked up. This is what I'm talking about.
On one man for the sake of just humiliating someone, much as he may deserve it, but as a metaphor for what is happening in this country. The people making the rules aren't following them, but they're certainly enforcing them in your case. In New York City, for example, officials are working hard to harass
Where they're paying 62% tax if Joe Biden wins.
open doors. A video uploaded on Twitter on Tuesday shows health inspectors issuing a citation to a restaurant because its front door was open on a hot day.
If you don't want to, you don't need to sign it. I know you're recording me. That's fine. I'm allowed to record you. I'm going to give you a copy and then you giving me a ticket because my doors are open, sir? The charge is spelled out here. There's nobody sitting in the restaurant. Everything is okay. You giving me a ticket because my doors are open? What if my store is hot? I'm not allowed to open the door because the store is hot? Everything's spelled out in the sign. I'm going to give you a copy.
I'm working on a video about that. You see how the Democrats spun that to say he accidentally flashed himself? No, he was jerking his yo. He was going to town. He thought my whole point is if you were at work, I don't care whether your mic or your Zoom was muted or not. Why were you jerking? Why were you naked jerking your shit at the computer while you were at work? Would you do that if you were in the building?
What do you think that was about? It didn't seem like you were endangering anyone.
Here you go, look.
No, it's really, it's kind of crazy because there's nobody in the restaurant. Aside from that,
Listen how they did it.
He came in as a plainclothes person, asked to sit down and eat. And my cousin, the manager, told him, I'm sorry, we're only takeout and delivery. Then he pulled out his badge and then he proceeded to write the summons. And he saw my cousin. I mean, he's brokenhearted, because he really, he runs this place and he loves it. And he just couldn't understand why he was getting this citation.
He just got a citation. The store can barely stay open.
No information at all. And, he wasn't yelling or screaming with throwing something. He was very,
He just
very
wanted
quiet.
his doors open.
You could hear that he was hurt in his voice. We worked so hard and we were struggling to begin with because of COVID. And it's really disheartening, when your business is already so slow because of this. And then somebody walks in and issues you a citation. He called me up literally, on the verge of tears.
Exactly. That's the real war.
you know, and
It's
again,
shocking.
to debate whether to stay open or not to begin
You're in
with,
Cali.
it's
You're locked
crazy.
down
And
too, right?
the thing that baffles me most is that
Are you locked
I'm in a
down where
red
you're
zone,
at?
but if I want to go eat and a red zone restaurant is closed, I'm going to a different restaurant outside of the red zone. Or if I want to buy a pair of shoes, I'm going to a different shoe store. So what's going on here? Our schools are closed, our synagogues are closed, you know, small businesses are suffering. And really there's no progress being made because you could really just go anywhere else. It's not like they lock you in your house if you're in the red zone and say you can't go anywhere. You still have freedom to move and work. So it's baffling to me. It really is.
That's kind of how they're trying to act around here. Is like it's open, but everything's different.
It's so dangerous. Really quickly, why do you think when women are literally afraid to get on the subway and people are living on the street and defecating in trash cans and making a mess of our biggest city, why are they picking on you?
Really, I have no idea. I have no idea, you know. But I will say that after this whole thing happened, it was rescinded, the summons, which Chaim Deutsch was, you know, the councilman was instrumental in that, and he said that if any other small businesses are having the same issues, he wants to help them out and fight it as well.
Beautiful.
It's just
So the summons did get removed. That's good, and he's honest about it. And he didn't have to say that,
and
but
I really believe that America is the greatest country to live in. You know.
See, that's what I'm saying again. Hunter whistleblower from. Yeah, they did move the Hunter whistleblower, the one that's in prison. They moved him to a different jail cell. Nobody knows quite where he's at right now. Where is it? I know I have it. Maybe I don't. There's that one we watched earlier. No, it's not on here. I don't know. I think I put it on my playlist, but if you guys are looking for that one we watched earlier, that guy's name is Tony Bobolinski. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night so my wife can come in and go to bed. I'm so grateful that the few of you just stayed and hung out with me the whole time. We had a good time. I'm glad. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely ready for bed. But I actually am putting up a video tomorrow on a couple of different things. So I will talk to you guys about it tomorrow, and I'll go live tomorrow night at 8:30. My videos will be up tomorrow by 3 and we'll be live tomorrow night at 8:30. All right. Everyone have a good night and listen, come back. I really enjoy all your questions. I'm glad you've been here. Peace. See you later.